Right, this is going to be another episode of Snake and Banter, aka the show with the two guys who are irrelevant and just make up hot takes and contrarian takes to, let me get this right, Maui, to engagement rage bait, which somehow, I've still never figured out the second part. Even though I joke like I get paid to tweet, I just get paid because that's how much you make back from the ad revenue, and you make like $40 for spending $8 basically, so that does still make sense. But they seem to imagine we make like thousands. Like, they seem to think if like enough people say Carajo under my tweet, then Elon Musk goes, there's another 1,000, Thorin. And if you get enough cornfaz, there'll be another 500. Believe it or not, that's not actually the way it works. But it's the two guys, and so they would tell us it's only when the guest is a straight fire, massive marquee name, legend of the game, top player, dynamic, charismatic ego. They would tell us that's the only episodes that get the big viewership. But first of all, I've told you that's not true. If you ever go and look, like Richard Lewis is actually the most viewed guest on this show, the one time he did it. So don't look at the title and go, dusT's the guest. Oh, I guess everyone's at the major, isn't it? No, maybe dusT actually secretly is going to fit that. And this is going to be the second highest viewed episode, right, dusT? We're going to dream this is going to be the banger, right?
Yeah, I mean, at least I'm a part of the major in some form. Fashion,
okay,
so,
yes. Yeah, in the most minor way, we are both sort of part of the major, aren't we, dusT? In our own way.
Small role.
In spirit, yeah. We're like force ghosts that are there. It's just no one can really hear us or speak to us or cares that we aren't there even. In fact, no one's even thinking, remember those guys? They're just going, I'm loving being at the major and fuck everyone else. So, speaking of loving the major and fuck everyone else, what is the first good point, dusT? What's good at the moment? I'm assuming something to do with the major, maybe?
Yeah, I figured I would go ahead and do something about the major, because despite a slow start and some chatter out there about some of the issues with the major, which we'll talk about later, sure, I do think that once we get to stage 3 and onward, we are going to start getting back to like a spicy major that everyone could really kind of enjoy. Obviously, you have the Vitality storyline is still hanging out there, a chance to keep the streak alive, a chance to win a major, sure, a chance to submit the first era of CS2. Then you have a chance for a Falcons or a Mouse Sports to play spoiler and beat them. They've already pushed them to the limits on multiple occasions, so there's still certainly a chance that a Mouse or Falcons can figure it out, especially with there being no best of 5 component, that they could maybe figure it out and do it. Spirit's the reigning major champion and still look like a strong top 4 team in the world. And then I think the other cool thing about it is if someone can catch Vitality early, like in the quarters of the semifinals, it does unlock a way forward for a team like a Mongols or something to maybe get into the mix and, be able to find a way to have the deep run or some type of miracle dark horse type of play. And then just FaZe having Simple alone is just like a cool story to follow throughout the course of the major. So I have belief that despite, again, some of the bumps in the roads that we've hit with this major, it's still going to turn out to be a really fun time to follow. I think the fact that it's North American time zones is always nice. It means the viewership's going to be banging. And I think NA crowds are usually pretty good even when their own team's not on stage. So I think all in all, it should develop pretty nicely. That's where I'm at.
I like that we have a prospective good point as opposed to a team that is already just doing well. I mean, I think a lot of the narratives that have been baked into this major based off of the season that we've had goes to show that putting the major at the end of a season was the right choice. It's one of the few points where I'd have to give it to Valve that they finally enforced it. I mean, I think the idea was floated at times, but actually I don't really even remember much of a conversation back in 2018, 2019, where people were saying, oh, they need to be at the end of the season or anything like that. It just was when it was, and people just accepted it for what it was. But now that
I feel like that already started once we came back from COVID. I think it was only after that people said it, wasn't it?
I think it was because, we were set in a 2
Because remember, we used to have Cologne, timing. Was it before like the player break? If you remember, that used to have to be the one before.
Yeah. So now it's the major that gets to punctuate the season, which is so much better because, as dusT said, we have all these narratives that are driving into it, and you just hope that they all, or most of them, hit so that we have some kind of playoffs that's actually gonna not just be like I still, I'm seeing the teams that are in stage 2 right now, and I'm thinking, how bad could it really get? Like Falcons already going down 0-1, for example. Like, can it really get that bad? Like, what if it was? Looking at the teams that went 1-0, what if Legacy, Pain, 3D Max, TYLOO, Bait, all 5 of those teams qualified for the next stage? It's still probably not going to be that bad, in all honesty. Like, the chances that those teams get over the solid top 4 teams is fairly unlikely. I just think that the chance that we have a Paris rerun is it's a far chance, or it's a fat chance.
By the way, what would if you had to summarize your point, dusT, in a sentence, what would it be? I got a bit lost as to what their point was. You were making just a lot of small ones. What was the overall theme? What was the theme of it?
The overall theme is, while because basically my premise to this point was that a lot of people were having comments about the first stage of the major saying it didn't feel like a major, right? And it, the quality of teams was pretty poor, and there was a lot of doom and gloom about it. But I was just saying, like, even though we've had that rough patch, we still have something to really look forward to once we get deeper into the major.
I see what you mean.
The good part
no, by the way, I get what you mean. If you mean like the back end of the major basically will deliver, I'm with you. Like, I think it's almost certain it will.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, we've obviously got some insane teams that very likely will make the playoffs and be good. But I actually even just think that third Swiss phase should already be fire. Like, look at the teams that are going to be there. Like, if you look at, remember logically, the teams that are the top half of stage 2 are the ones you expect to be more like the bottom half of stage 3, except the Falcons, etc., and maybe FaZe. So if you look at that set of squads, like, actually, even stage 3 is going to be pretty good unless you have some crazy flukes. Like, I'm with you. And by the way, you know what? I'll use this to like tee up a point that I was making before we started the show. Even though, as established on the recent episodes, cross promotion here, of Hot Take Point Made, yes, find yourself a friend/lover who can believe in you the way Thorin believes in Simple to do anything and everything. Like, I even said, I don't actually believe in Jesus, but I do believe in Simple at his peak. Like, I just think he is Neo in the Matrix for me. So one thing that I realised, this is where I know that people haven't yet started to let themselves dream. And I get why. You're all scared. You were hurt once before when you went to a team called Falcons. You all wanted to believe. You even saw the glimpses, but it didn't quite deliver. So you're all scared to put your faith in him. Maybe he is dead and gone. Maybe this is just a ghost, a shadow of his former self. But here's the reason why, if FaZe was skipping ahead here, was to make it to the playoffs, for example. If you're imagining, big marquee names, you'd want FaZe there. They're a team that draws all the crowd. Simple's obviously a massive name. We're already seeing from the first event he played. Everyone's going to tune in when he plays. I actually think people haven't realised yet how just Simple and FaZe being at this major together could actually completely change the narrative. Because look, I'm not actually, outside a Hot Take Point Made, imagining he's going to win the major. Like, that's a pretty wild thought. In fact, I don't even think he's going to make like the semis or whatever, right? That's more of a hot take, right? For me, if you just make the playoffs, I actually think job done if you FaZe. It's more like, how do you look? If you look good, maybe you continue on. But here's the angle people haven't thought of. If they were to make the playoffs, which isn't crazy, by the way, I'm not saying they're like a fit, but they could sneak in as like a 2-2 team, or they could get like the BO1s and go in as a 3-1 team. What people haven't stopped to think about is this. Bro, he's going to have to play someone to lose in the quarterfinals. And if that is any of the super marquee matchups, you don't even need the game to be good. If you're just in your brain, imagine skip forwards, we're going into the quarterfinals, and I tell you, right, the quarterfinals is FaZe and Simple against Zemu and Vitality, right? Every single human in the world who likes Counter-Strike is watching that game, maybe even more than the final. And then throw in as well, by the way, if it's Falcons, you get Simple against Nico and Morrissey. And then you know what? We haven't even thought of this one, but fuck it, throw in Donk. You can even, by the way, if you want, I wouldn't suggest doing this because people are starting at this major. You can even add in the whole fucking shit outside of the server will start to become a factor on these games. Like, these matches alone, your brain, we've all sort of gotten over the idea Simple's going to be in CS2, so we haven't really realised the stakes. Like, if Simple even makes the playoffs, this major already becomes significantly more interesting than most of the ones we've had in CS2.
Yeah, I just have to jump on this point because I find it kind of funny that before I really was working in this space, but your beloved CS podcast Counterpoints with Moses was one of my favorites that I watched, and you'll hear where I'm going with this. Okay. Don't worry. And so, to most people's knowledge, it was an amicable breakup between Thorin and Moses when the show stopped. But I'm just letting people in on a little clue here that if there's something to read between the lines, it's that everybody is celebrating Simple's comeback, but the only guy I hear that is holding out that Simple's not yet back is Moses. So this is almost like a dismissal by proxy because everyone is excited by this. No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke.
No. Also, what's funny is I know what you mean. I actually thought your angle was going to be, which would be a funnier one. Like, the reason he stopped doing count points is he didn't want to hear me talk about Simple every week. He was like, you know what? Fuck it.
Exactly. No, I'm going to some other guys. It's all just Simple glazing. It just became Simple points.
Yeah, because if you ever do look at when we stopped that, but it was around the time that like Simple was getting goated. It's like, you know what, boys? I'm a bit busy actually. I can't do this every week. I like Zemu too. Like, you know what I mean? Some shit like that. Anyway, I actually do agree though. I also do think, like, if anything, what's funny is, if I was to show you on paper the names that have already got some of the upsets and that even made it out of stage 1, you might think, it's another one of those majors with all randy results. No, because you know what? Actually, if you think of the obvious examples are the Bates of the world, actually, just like you said. If anything, people know they're a quality team. We just didn't know yet how land tested they are. That's the real problem. It's the same way Heroic. People knew the lineup looks decent. So I actually think if these teams actually prove it on land, I actually do want to see them play. Maybe I do want to see them play more than like fucking... the obvious examples are the FlyQuests of the world, but they might be favoured to go through, but who the fuck wants to watch them play?
I mean, essentially you had Bait, BB, and OG all not really having
Yes.
any LAN experience
Agreed.
coming into the tournament. So again, it was a big mystery. Like
Yeah.
we only had online results to go off of. So yeah, I think it does give an opportunity to see if those teams actually can do it against some of the bigger name teams in stage 2, or even if they can make it all the way to stage 3. I think Heroic probably has the best chance of anyone to make it that far, but like, we'll see, it'll be interesting.
Now, before I support Maui's career by letting him make a point on one of my podcasts that will then be hated and or go to a play.gg article, if you want to support Mauisnake's career, you could buy some merchandise from LFN, couldn't you? Because we now have a shop. It is Last Free Nation, all one word, .shop. That is the domain. On there, they have a whole bunch of initial gear. Some of it's just stuff with the logo on, understandably, because we want to do like a limited drop and see if people buy it and are into it. If people are into it, we will start to do more like specialized. Like there might actually be a Mauisnake / a Hot Take Point Made shirt. There might be something for Snake and Banter, Four Horsemen, all these different shows we do. And so at the moment, it's mainly stuff like a t-shirt with the LFN logo on, joggers with the LFN, a mug, a mat, all the usual, like, what do you call it normally, like swag or whatever, when you have it in those bags at the cons when they give you, etc. And it is like limited edition, like there's a number on the shirt because it's going to be only so many in the drop, etc. And if you don't know, and also if you're into foreplay, they actually have a poster of like all the faces of a 90s action thing that were all Monty's, like, I don't know, I think he was like Ethan Hawke's character, Ethan out of whatever his name is from Mission Impossible, and I'm the Nicolas Cage guy from Face Off or whatever. It's really well done art though. So the idea is we're going to expand it out. At the moment, it's mainly just about seeing the super loyal hardcore ultras of LFN. Do you want to initially support the first drops? If so, good news. It ships worldwide. If you're actually from the US and you order $60 or more, free shipping to you. So check out the store. And it's all got a whole bunch of stuff there. Now, back to our previously scheduled programming of Maui making potentially a good take. Go for it.
Yeah, mine is just something that I always do enjoy every major season. The way to get everybody invested is just that I actually love pick'ems. I'm not really good at them. I'm going to be honest. I'm actually quite bad at pick'ems. In all honesty, I only have, and this is a self-report, but I don't even care. I only have a single diamond coin, and it was the 2019 Katowice where Astralis won it over Ents, if I'm not mistaken. And that one, I mean, that one felt so free that if you didn't get it, you have to get your head checked. But I really I go with my heart a lot of the time, especially in the later stages. But all in all, I think pick'ems is just such a fun way that keeps the community excited about watching these games, watching the big upsets, because a lot of people don't really care all too much about the narratives that us hardcore fans do, but it even gets the casuals more invested of like, oh my god, like when Falcons lost today, everybody felt that loss tenfold because there was not a single creator that did not have Falcons in their 3-0 category. It was actually like in the 60 people on this list that I saw, not a single one had had Falcons absent on that. So for Bait to immediately do that, it puts Bait on the map in a way that a single upset victory in a BO1 otherwise wouldn't, because people would probably just write it off. They'd just be like, man, like Falcon, slow star, like, stage 1 buff, Bait, whatever. Like there's a million excuses for why people would say it doesn't really matter. But because it affects everybody's pick'ems, now everybody pays attention to it in a different way. So I actually, it's kind of a shout out also to Valve slightly that they did do some good with this major circuit, that this aspect of it that's been around for however long, like I don't even know when they started it, but it's been around for maybe like 10 years now or something. I don't know. It's been a wild success.
No, I have to agree. I really do think the pick'ems. I mean, anytime you have like a fantasy or a betting element, that's always going to give people more incentive to be involved because they have some type of stake in the game now. All of a sudden, no matter how large or small it might be, like you have investment into it now, and so it does create more engagement. It creates more content opportunities for everyone. It creates more fun discourse and banter that you can have against other people in your communities or whatever the case may be. And so, yeah, it's really nice. I also do like, by the way, when they did make that change to where you had to actually accurately pick a 3-0 and not just do like the whole like safe bet in the advanced column and then like risk somebody on a 3-0. Like I actually think that's nice because it made pick'ems harder. It made it harder to attain the precious diamond coin. I will say this though, I think it's weird, like the gulf between gold and diamond is so vast. Like, I don't know that you would add another level or something like that, but like, it does just seem like weird how easy it is to get silver and gold, but then it just becomes like insane to get diamond. So maybe the scaling could be like a little bit better, or they could add another level like platinum or something in between gold and diamond just to make it a little bit more fun. Also, maybe you get a little bit more out of it, because like right now, you just get like 2 or 3 souvenir drops or something like that. Like, I think there could be something a little bit more fun you could do with it. But Valve has shown the willingness to evolve it, and even if it stays as is, it's still a fun thing to do for everyone, right? So I do agree, it's positive for sure.
This is where we're different people, does, because I didn't even think about the idea you get something in the game. I thought the whole purpose of getting the pick'em was just to brag on Twitter and be like, hey, you guys don't even know the game and I do. Isn't that what everyone's whole purpose is? I'm going to ask you a question, dusT. I try to isolate you, because I'll tell you my answer right after this, which is, you just said all that, like, it's harder now, and I like that. Last few majors, have you ever even got through the fucking Swiss, mate? Have you not got wrecked like everyone? Didn't we all get wrecked?
Shanghai, I lost my diamond coin in the semifinals.
Oh, fair enough. Here's the thing. I'll give you props. At least you made the playoffs. The reason I say this, by the way, is I don't think I've even gotten through the Swiss for like 4 majors or something now, mate. Like, I never even get through Swiss. So one thing I want to say is, even though you say it's harder, it is technically harder, but I actually think, even though this doesn't really play to Maui's point of it being a good point, I'll do a negative for a second. I actually think it's harder in the sense, I think it's slightly random, because the problem is there is now so much weight, as you say, on the 3-0s and the 0-3s as well. Like, the 0-3 existed already, but the 3-0 part, the fact that you remember, everyone forgets the old meta meant you didn't really put your 3-0 team, because you just knew as long as they go through, you get them anyway. But because you don't have that now, I actually think when I look at creators, doesn't almost every creator fail before the playoffs nowadays? I feel like there's like 1 or 2 that are left alive at the end. So on the one hand, if you want it to be something really rare that people ever get the diamond coin, yeah, you've nailed it. Like, you've got a really hard path. The problem is, though, I don't really know that. Like, I don't, like, put it this way, I'm with Maui's point. It's really good for casuals. I think it's an excellent way to get casuals to, one, care about the match. You know, essentially, it's like a money-free version of getting them to invest in the same way you do if you bet on the game. Everyone knows the reason people bet on the game is you're twice as invested in the result, whether you like the team or don't, because you want to win the bet. Part of your brain wants that little dopamine of like, oh, I won, nice. So just doing the pick'em has that too. I mean, I agree with you, by the way. The second this Falcons one happened, which I'm going to guess, there'll be one of those threads, it might already be on Reddit, there'll be one of those threads that'll be like 99.98% of people picked Falcons to go 3-0. Like, there'll be one of those where like they fucked everyone. So it'll be like that old fucking Star Wars meme, you know, the one where it's like, I felt a great disturbance in the force, as if millions of voices were suddenly cried out in terror. Like, yeah, that is what will happen the second, like, put it this way, I wasn't even watching that game before, but then on my phone I saw it, it was like, oh, bloody hell, it's 12-8 to them. I had to quickly tune in, like, they've lost already, what the fuck, the whole major scuffed. So, but I will say, if you're a fan, that makes it way more interesting than just like, oh, what the hell, Falcons lost? Oh, okay, well, it doesn't matter. Like, no, that does matter. Like, now everyone's pick'ems everyone just got like 20% more stress with their pick'em after one map was played. So that does help. And I'll also say an actual like subtle part of why the pick'em is clever is because it makes a fan, before the stage begins, have to ask himself, what is the framing of who these teams are? Who should be the teams that are the favourites? Who are the worst teams? And who are the ones that have a chance to go in the middle? That's actually really good, by the way. They're basically making fans almost do like a self-service analyst desk there. It's actually quite a cool concept. And as we said, a lot of the things which I'm saying basically play negatively if you're a creator. Like, people tell you don't know anything. That's the feature for the fan, isn't it? They want to tell their mates, like, oh, you idiot, what, you believed in fucking FlyQuest? Bro, what are you doing? Like, obviously Legacy all the way. You want to do all that. By the way, even though it's totally unrelated, shout out Richard Lewis for already the tweet of the event with that Legacy PR will win 9 out of 10 times. And then he did the, like, Argentina al Mundial hashtag or whatever. Like, listen, people forget, because Richard generally tries to be so serious, like a bit. He has got some grade A shit poster in him at times. That was like that was beautiful. That was great work. Well done. He nailed it. Anyway, no, I agree. The one problem I have is this. One, I do feel like too many people. Look, now I feel like I've taught people. You know, before my old complaint was people really acted like the simulator was like a VR environment making the games go Maui. Whereas I used to say, no, it just takes the upper seed and says it wins the game. You have to actually yourself simulate it, mate. Right? Even so, people are married to those fucking simulators, mate. They actually are doing that thing like, no, but they can't do that because... Is this your first day on planet Earth? Like, it's BO1s. They play 2 in one day, mate. Like, there are so many possibilities are possible.
I don't even look
Yeah,
at the simulator ever when I make my picks.
You don't need to.
Literally not one.
You don't.
Like,
By the way, it's only really like
you'll
a 0-3
drive yourself
one.
insane if you do that. I feel like you will literally drive yourself insane if you try to play out the simulator. I feel like not unironically or whatever. Like I just feel like there's no point in it. You can look at initial matchups to kind of gauge your 3-0-0-3, I think, but like after that, like one best of one goes wrong, it ruins your whole simulation anyway. So it's just like, nah, I can't be asked.
And just think of any tournament, even BO3 tournaments. When was there ever a tournament where all the matches were the way you thought they would? So by the time you're 2 matches in, you're already so many possibilities other than that. There was another detail I was going to bring up though. This is the last one. There is one negative with the current pick'ems that they have to change, in my opinion. And technically, it's not related to the pick'ems. It's a fault of the scheduling. Mate, this last one was crazy. You can't have the window for the coin be something like 15 hours or something. Like, mate, like for real, I guarantee there are people waking up like, the fuck, so I can't do the coin anymore. Like that, I think that's really bad. I know it's because it's a byproduct of the fact the event just doesn't have an off day, but I think Valve didn't think that one through, mate. Like I feel like you've got to have some sort of bigger, a whole day surely. One whole day surely.
I mean, we didn't even have a podcast yesterday, but just the fact that I know that right after I did my broadcast, okay, so I had like the late shift yesterday and I had the morning shift for work today. And I knew that in this window of time, I got to sleep for 7 hours. I want to.
I saw you did a video,
the games I'm working tomorrow. Yeah, and I also want to make a video that shows my pick'ems. And it was like, man, I feel stressed right now. Like I'm stressing over this. That's why I just kind of made my pick'ems. I just couldn't even take them too seriously because I was like, if I sweat over these pick'ems, I am gonna lose my mind today. So I just chose my sanity instead.
Speaking of which, if you want to see how the pick'ems have affected content creators, think how Launders does his guys. When he does a video at home, you'd think he was like on MTV. It's like, hey guys, really high quality. There's like images and stuff playing in the background. There's like things coming up, and then I'm talking about this. And image his was like him, like he was like a homeless guy in the dark going like and then he was barely saying anything, and the whole thing, by the way, he barely even gives a reason, guys. He just uses pure charisma to get through it. Like at the beginning of the video, I even realized he is just funnier than I give him credit for. At the beginning of the video, he goes, you guys think like, because I failed the last stage or whatever, I can't get stage 2, but he goes, he goes, when have I ever failed 2 stages in a row? Trust the formula. Even though past pages have nothing to do with this. That's actually well done, but it just shows that, like, what the fuck are you supposed to say? Because like we say about he's not going to sit down like, well, here's a 1-hour video previewing all the teams. Like, we have to go to bed in a minute, mate.
The funny thing about that video, by the way, real quick, that got me at the end was all that you said was hilarious, right? I'm just watching him silently just move his mouse across all the freaking logos.
He's just moving logos.
But then the best part, the chef's kiss at the end was, how like at the last like 5 seconds of the video it'll like show the cards like other videos you can watch. It blocked his freaking picks. You couldn't see what he put. Like
I love it.
You couldn't
because the YouTube thing came over the top with the recommended videos. Right?
You couldn't see some of his picks.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. I love the idea now. People are having like Zabruda film his picks video. Like if you pause at 0.25 seconds, you can see. Oh, yeah, he put bait in. Oh,
100%. 100%, man.
Anyway, we will move now to my good point. Now I'm going to do. Here's the thing. I am a slight contrarian, Maui, but only in this sense. I don't formulate my take like, right, the fans think X, so I think not X. But if you notice, I do like, because I find it an interesting juxtaposition. Look that word up, you fucking plebs. I do like the juxtaposition of when people are down on someone, if I actually think they're legit, that's the moment I want to highlight that they're really good. So I actually want to choose this moment to highlight one player who, by the way, lost today and didn't have an awesome game. It's going to be a heroic player. And it is the player Tanir, the Belarusian player, right? Because I want to tell people, this today he had like an off game. I'll tell you why I know it's an off game. I've watched all this guy's LAN games this year. Bro, he's had like 2 bad maps the whole fucking year on LAN. This guy, if people don't know, this is like this is the next CIS player. Like, I don't even know the Kioske guy. I've just seen him play some Tier 2 online shit, mate. For all I know, maybe he will be a boss, maybe with the Tanir guy. If anything, here's an angle that I don't think people have thought through. Because he's from Belarus, mate, this guy could be in Spirit. This guy could be in fucking VP. This guy could be in all these teams, whatever squad you want to make with Russians. And that. This guy could just be in there. And I tell you what, bear in mind, I've already seen him now play in an international squad speaking English. Mate, to use Kassad's phrasing, his aim looks fucking sharp, boys. Like, this actually looks like the next fucking, like, sleeper good rifler. Like, I'm fucking kind of hyped. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is obviously everyone's going to bang on him for this game today. Like, it was his fucking teammates that did badly. He was just okay in this one. Aside from that, I think genuinely, if you haven't watched him play, this is like a player to go watch. He looks fucking very insane. I'm already thinking of, like, if you want an analogy, remember when fucking Axile came on the scene way back in the day in Gambit? Like, you see a player like that, you know they should be a top player. They should be in a good team. Like, what do you think, dusT? What do you think of this guy?
I think he's fantastic, man. I mean, I feel like him and PR have basically kind of come up at the same time, between like Heroic and Gamer Legion as like, playmaking extremity riflers that can also do the damn thing on the CT side. And I think what's crazy about him is he's 24 years old, but still came out of obscurity like a 17-year-old player. Like this guy wasn't playing, I think outside of maybe some events with like Forza, like he really didn't have like much experience on like official HLTV matches to even go back and look at and try to figure out like what type of player he would be. So yeah, like he has been fantastic for Heroic. He definitely looks like a future star player to keep an eye on. I definitely think he could be a guy that could creep into the top 20 this year, even if he keeps it up. Certainly one for the future. And as you said, like the opportunities are endless because he's already proven he can play an international team by playing in Heroic, and then B, he could be the savior, like you said, for an Eastern European team at some point if they do need to go ahead and change out riflers. And there are certainly a couple of candidates out there who need to be kind of theory crafting that very thought. So yeah, I think Tanier has been a revelation. Like it's been kind of fun to watch just how good he really is. It's sad that like Sun Pius and Star on their way out of Heroic.
That's
you don't really know if they're going to be able to find the appropriate pieces. Because I mean, Heroic, they had that top 8 finish at Dallas. They're making a run at the major. Like they seriously look like they could be a team to keep an eye on. Saul worked his magic once again, but I do worry about the future of the team now that those two guys are gone. Maybe they can find a good enough coach and get like Dexter or something and still be a strong team. But either way, I think Tanier is like a name to definitely keep an eye on. I do enjoy him a lot.
I've looked at some Tanier demos, and he's I mean, the way he aims is I feel like I use the comparison a lot, but it's probably a guy that other people have really looked at closely is Rops, where it's just he trains his crosshair right on the angle. He doesn't do too many of those crosshair placement before the peak kind of swings where he's like, I think there's a lot of examples of players who they set their crosshair up exactly where they think the guy's going to be through the wall, and then they swing pre-aiming that. But Tanier doesn't get caught off almost ever because he just trains it against the wall, so that it's just that if the person is going to swing him before he's ready, or they're just playing an off angle, he'll still get the kill. So the likelihood that you catch this guy off guard is incredibly low with off angles. And I notice the things that frustrate him the most are when people just kind of play quote unquote dumb around smokes. Like he has a hard time if people are just like dodging out of one side of the smoke, going in on the other side, like stuff where he has to flick between angles. He's actually kind of bad at, but it's such a small gripe for his play style. And also, he can turn from flashes pretty well, but like he has a hard time if there's just like lots of action going on. But if he's taking a 1v1 duel, and I'm talking versus any of the best players in the world, he's got above a 50% chance to win it. Like, it doesn't even matter if it's a hard shot because he is so precise. Like, he's a low sense abuser. He's a low sense demon. Like, he's kind of like Nico like that. He's very confident in what he thinks the next fight is going to be. And when he's right, he's just winning that fight. Like, it's very, very uncommon to see this guy just mess up a first bullet, mess up a spray. Like, the amount of times he kills people with his first bullet, I wish there was a stat for that, because I feel like he is so rarely taking longer than 2 bullets to kill somebody anytime they're on his screen. Yeah, and like dusT said, I mean, the way he plays on these like lurker extremity positions, like that's where it's best to just isolate the fight and just win that instant duel. Like I wouldn't even want him to really play connector on Mirage, because I don't really think that if he's got a swivel between 2 angles or try to catch people jumping through the smoke, I don't think he's actually the most adept at it. But if you just put him on one side of the map, like he's going to clean up.
Yeah. His success rate in opening duels is insane. He doesn't take a lot, obviously, because of the roles that he plays, but the fact that it's just like you're saying, Ma, when you put him in those situations where he has to just kind of focus on one thing, he wins those fights oh so often, and that just makes the whole game easier, because if you're an IGL, now all of a sudden, like, you can trust that extremity as being a part of the ground at any point in time that you want to call it. And then you just know he's in a lockdown wherever he's playing defensively. You don't even have to worry about it. So, yeah, it is kind of crazy, how we're seeing a lot of players come out of obscurity and do really well this year, which has been a lot of fun to watch just across the board. Like I said, PR, Maladoy, like you kind of name it. Like we've had a few different names kind of creep through that just we had no idea who they were, and then all of a sudden they've been able to immediately start having impact at a pretty high level. So it's just kind of fun to watch the development of talent in CS in that regard.
And by the way, I'm with you, Maui, as well. If people don't know, in the modern day, unless you're really going deep, you don't even have to actually get CS and download the demo itself. People put POVs of any high fragging performance, basically, on YouTube. You can just go watch it there. But if you don't know, what Maui's talking about is why, if you ever want to really get into the specifics of a play, you can't watch the VOD because there's too many distractions. You don't get to see them all the time. You really need to see stuff like how they set themselves up, like he's saying, how do you pre-aim? Where do you, like, look when your teammate flashes? Because I'll give you the example. An analogy for what he was talking about how you do the swing, for example, is I've always thought that's how you can tell the difference between the really crazy flick AWPers and just the really normal AWPers. A normal AWPer, when he's on T side on dusT 2 and he goes down the suicide area, he just aims to the left and tries to click the button when you jump over through the door. The crazy talented guy actually does do the thing that the cheater online does. Put his crosshair in the gap and flick onto you. Like, that's what, like, MonteCristo and people do. And that's why when they hit you each time, it's like that's the demoralizer there, because they're not even doing it like, essentially, I'm just doing like a fucking beat test of my reaction speed on the other guy. They're actually trying to trace you through the fucking door. So, no, I'm with you. And if you don't know, by the way, I'll give, just because I know no one does it, because essentially I'm doing the usual thing, Maui, of like, the secret was hard work and dedication, which no one ever does. This is how you find all the next players. Like, I don't really have as crazy an eye test as I pretend. Spoiler, I just went and watched a million insane POVs, and I could just see, like, mate, he's winning way too many of these duels against, like, tier 1 team. That's how you know they're good. You Kindai, you could have done it with 3 years ago. So anyway, that's the little secret sauce. Now then, Maui, speaking of having clean aim, segue, what would you like to say about that?
I mean, of course. I mean, if you want to clean up your act, because it's getting really damn hot here, okay? I hope anybody that's coming to Austin for the playoffs just gets on Mando, because what you should do is you should go to www.shopmando.com, use our promo code CS2 to get $5 off a starter pack. And I don't even know where to stop when we're talking about complimenting Mando. Thorin and I have used it at this point. I know Kassad has used it. I mean,
which says a lot.
I've got this product right next to me.
You know how Kassad is, guys. If there's certain things he won't use, even he uses it and said it was good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's that the founder of Mando found out that the way that body odor is created, really, there's a way to stop it at the source instead of just preventing all the sweat. And so the formulas that they use are so much better for sensitive skin. And I have found that it just keeps odor away at length. They say on the packaging that it has 72-hour odor control. I've used it for multiple times, 30-hour travel days, get off the plane, no problem. I still smell like the deodorant in a good way, and they have great scents too. I mean, I'm using the bourbon leather one right now. I like the Mount Fuji one, for example. They came up with this new one, the Cedar. I think it's Cedar Grove. That one's actually been my new favorite. But yeah, just try any of them out. Get $5 off your own starter pack, where you can choose products, and I would say go for the wipes. Okay, that's something I've also been using a lot.
Almost
the
everyone
wipes
will
is
like
something
that, in
that
my opinion. Yeah.
I just keep that in my car now. If I go to the gym or anything like that, but I don't have time for a shower right after, I just pull 2 of those out, just boom, it's all over. It's clean. I'm feeling good about myself. I know I'm not stinking up the grocery store when I go shop right after. And yeah, go to shopmando.com, use promo code CS2, and support the damn show by not smelling so badly.
Also, I will say, I'll play the role of Kassad in this one. The thing I'll give them props for too is, I am a boomer when it comes to like fragrances, etc. Like, I'm the guy where if you were like, what does this perfume or aftershave smell like? I'd go, perfume. Like, I don't have the palette, I can't say. But I'll tell you what, I actually do find the scents of this smell way better. Like, I do like that bourbon leather one, I think smells great, mate. There's a bunch of them actually have like the soap, I told you, I actually really enjoy that. It's not just a plain soap smell, but it's not over the top in my opinion. It's just nice. It's like a subtle smell that I just enjoy when I'm in there. Actually, I almost now start to see why people vibe with, not, like, again, I just do a shower like in imprisonment. I go there for like the 2 minutes that I'm in and out, and I do something. I now get why people soak it in, you know, and enjoy the sensual components, etc. Anyway, let's talk about what's bad in general. It doesn't have to be at the major. So what's bad, dusT? What's bad at the moment?
I am going to invoke the major again here. So it's going to be a bit of a rant, so bear with me here. But basically, the summary is the major format and then the qualification process for the major is totally outdated and poor overall. Okay. And so I'll start with the qualification process. Obviously, this time around, we introduced the VRS system, which was supposed to be this ideal point system that, you know, took over the entire circuit of Counter-Strike and assigned people points and ranking. And that was how we were going to decide who makes it to the major, who makes it to these really big tier 1 events and all that jazz. And I think over time that will will eventually pan itself out and become a really good system to use. But right now, on top of that, we're also using this online MRQ system, which is just busted. Like, why are we using online tournaments to decide who's supposed to be at a major? And then worst of all, the European RMR had best of ones involved. So, like, what are we doing here at this point? Like, why are we using formats that are so outdated and is not even consistent with what we see elsewhere? Even the regions weren't consistent because North America had best of threes only for their online MRQ, but Europe had BO1s. Like, what are we doing here? Then we also added a stage to the major that included more teams. But we did so at the cost of making everything inferior, in my opinion, which I think is bad. I also think the announcements of the MRQs are bad because they come out so late that it overlaps on top of lands that have already been announced for such a long time. Valve mandates that all these TOs have to announce everything like a year in advance of like where their land's going to be on the schedule, what their location is, all that jazz. And while that may help Valve understand the ecosystem and everybody else, when you're slapping your own tournaments in and you're not following the same process that you expect everyone else to, it just turns out to be a big mess. And then once we get to the major itself, to finish this off, we're using the same format we've been using since 2019. The last 9 majors have had the same Swiss system format of opening games being best of ones, and then only having best of threes for advancement and elimination, and then the best of 3 single elimination bracket playoffs. That's 9 majors in 6 years. Meanwhile, we've changed the version of game. We've moved to MR12. We've had all these different changes. We've also seen the tier 1 scene level up outside of the major, where no one is doing best of ones anymore anywhere. We've been doing best of 3 or better for quite a long time now. The prize money also now matches majors for most tier 1 tournaments at this point as well. And so at this point, the only thing that the major really has going for it is that it's called the major, and just by that fact alone, it's prestigious. And then it has the whole stickers. But we're doing so at the cost of having inferior formats, inferior qualification systems. Like, why are we not getting best of 3s only? Why are we not going to see a best of 5 grand finals at some point in a major? Like, it needs to catch up with the rest of the scene, because right now you're getting lapped by other fellow tier 1 tournaments taking place in the circuit that you're then using to qualify teams for your major. Like, it just doesn't really make any sense to me anymore, like why things the way that they are, especially when you added an entire week to have 32 teams in the major. I don't think we need to have that many teams in the major. Yeah, maybe it's great for their financials with stickers and we help support teams. That's cool. I kind of like that aspect. But if you're going to spend an extra 4 days on like lower quality CS in a major, why are we not using that to beef up the top end of the major? Like, I think that would be a better use of the time. Also, final thing here, sorry, it's been a minute. Why are we having 2 stages so close together where there's no gap? There's no gap between stage 1 and stage 2.
Yep.
So now we talked about this in the pick'ems thing, but it hurts the teams. If you're a team that went 3-2, you have to turn around and play 2 best of ones the next day.
Yeah.
Also, just having to play 2 best of ones on the same day against 2 different opponents. Like, we're so far past this everywhere else in the scene. Why are we still doing this in majors?
It's a good run.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's all valid. It's incredibly valid. I feel like where I'd start with it is the MRQs. I think, until you pointed it out there, I didn't really even recognize that the only qualifier that uses BO1s is the European one, despite the fact that there's 5 other ones. That's actually pretty crazy when you think about it. That in fact, it's actually much more likely that you get the best teams out of, say, North America, because they're using a group stage with all BO3s into BO3s in the playoff stage of that qualifier.
Quickly, I would guess because there's more teams involved in the European qualifiers and the other regions have smaller amount of teams within the MR. So that's probably why.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Regardless of it is true. Like, they do have more, but it's also just kind of like, it's just wild that we use BO1s in general still. I feel like that's kind of my main point for this whole thing, is that the entire scene has left BO1s behind. In fact, Vitality didn't play a single BO1 for this entire season. And now coming into the major, they're going to have to play a format that they technically have never even played while they've kept up this streak or created this streak that now is legendary. So that's just really disappointing that Valve they've done some things, like, they've obviously updated the pick'ems, they've updated the fact that they've added another stage, but then they just held on for no reason to this archaic format.
I mean, the obvious thing to say would be, this is one of those areas where Sometimes I get radicalised and I become like an accelerationist. Part of me almost wants the streak to end in a BO1 Maui just so then I can go, get rid of this fucking format, because then it would be the ultimate way to do it, wouldn't it? Be like, you've just ruined history, because everyone would accept it if you lost a BO3, but no one will if you lose the BO1. Like, the obvious example is we're recording it today on the first day of the major in the second stage, and we've already had this result, obviously, where Beta's beaten Falcons. Here's the point I always make to fans, because they always get... you know what? I'm not even going to be fair to fans anymore. Fuck you. You aren't fair to me. You'll never listen to what I say, so I'm not listening to what you say anymore. So when fans tell me, but it's you just hate people getting upset, you only want fair... No, that's not what I'm saying. So I'm going to ignore that completely. My problem has always been this, is it's too hard to accept. Like, the obvious angle is, if Beta had actually beaten Falcons in a BO3, first of all, that would be a way bigger result. And then secondly, that would be incredible for them. That would be such a crazy big thing. Similarly, if the streak really did end, but it was in a BO3 in the Swiss phase, now you're the legendary team that beat them. Remember, NIP's 870 was a BO3. They were beaten by Virtus Pro with Dorsey and those guys. If that had been a BO1, that would have fucking ruined the whole thing. Like, that would have been trash. Like, imagine if it was like the first BO1 at the event at 9 in the morning and, they get there late and someone's mouse isn't working. The whole narrative and the romance of it ends. And also, like Maui said, this is a second area now that the entire scene has moved on past it. So every other big tournament has BO5 finals. We don't have that for the major. And then every other tournament doesn't have BO1s. Even ESL, which used to do it again to save time in the first round, even they made it to best of 3 guys. So if you're Valve out there, this isn't even like a big thing surely we need to debate anymore. Just look at the other tournaments, mate. You've got a proof in action of how it works. And I would just say this, go and look when upsets happen in BO3s at those other tournaments and you do not get the same amount of complaining. I think most people accept them, and actually it gives you, by the way, you get props. Think about even earlier in this episode, if that had been Heroic winning a BO1 against FaZe at Dallas, who gives a fuck? That was the eliminating BO3. That was a big fucking series. That's why they've gotten all this hype for this event. Also, I agree in general. Like, the online part is mental because, first of all, the number 1 region in Counter-Strike is fucking Europe. Bear in mind, we include the CIS teams there. That's the one you need to be the most sturdy. Like, if anything, I could maybe believe in Oceania and Asia that they could fluke them with it. This is nonsense. Like, the obvious teams people know is like the Gamer Legions and the Astralis of the world. I'm sorry. They would murk every team in fucking stage 3 of this, stage 1, sorry.
NIP.
They'd wreck everyone. Yeah, all these squads would have gotten through, in my opinion. And again, if it was just a LAN qualifying that they lost BO3s, then I'll accept it. I'll just accept, okay, that's a tournament they lost. I can't accept it because when I look it up, here's who Gamer Legion lost to. Gamer Legion lost to Namiga, Falcons, and then they lost to BO3 to SAW. Right? I'm sorry. Those are just teams that only play on the fucking internet. Literally, if Valve Software, if you're listening, online play is different from LAN play. It's one of the reasons why Gamer Legion actually has gotten ultra fucked, guys. Because if you don't know, this is the year where finally Gamer Legion only has to go to LANs, Maui. So now they don't play all the online million CCTs. They're not the people who are in online form. Online form is different. Online form is playing every single day against the same 25 teams in all those fucking brackets. So the joke is, you're literally training Valve, the circuit, to beat some of your questionable teams to make it to the LAN because they play every day in those online cops. Then the MRQ just is one of those. It's the same shit. Whereas if you're the guy who goes to the LAN and plays on LAN, and at the same thing, right? Look, we all might laugh at some of the Astralis LAN performances, but they would walk through these teams on a LAN. If you saw them in the beginning of a blast, you'd go Astralis and win that game. It's when they play real teams they lose. So I hate that part already. Like, I hate the idea. Here's what people don't get. I understand if there's a certain amount of slots, Chinggis Warriors is going to be there, but I can't handle Chinggis Warriors being there if Gamer League isn't. Like, what am I watching at this point in time? The best thing about CS is we've never had to do that thing they do in League of Legends. If you don't know, in League of Legends, even when China and Korea are like far and away the best regions, they can only have 4 teams, max, at the World Championship. So that means if the 5th best team in the world really was from China, they can't play at the World Championship. CS isn't like that. One of the beautiful things about CS is you can have 15 European teams if the format allows it. You don't have to go, there's only 8 per region. You don't have to do some shit like that. So one of the things I think, I've said it in the past, but the obvious fix to me is in the VRS. Just give more of the VRS slots the guaranteed major qualification and just have the qualifying part be for a couple of slots and ideally have it at one LAN. That way there's not as many matches to play, etc. Like, the obvious angle to me, I don't know how you'd make this work, but I'll throw it out there and someone smarter at HLTV or Messi or someone can figure out how this would work. I would say something like maybe the top 20 or something just come from VRS, the whole thing. And then beyond that, if you want to Oceanic teams, then pick either the teams from that or you add a couple of qualifiers to do those last slots. Because again, I wouldn't complain as much if I was talking about like, oh, what's that? I mean, I'm trying to think of a team, but 3D Max couldn't make it. I do care if Gamer Legion can't make it. Gamer Legion's actually a real team that could have made the playoffs, boys. Like, what, they lose a couple of BO1s online and I have to say, see ya. Like, that's too much for me. So, yeah, that's a bummer. And then you touched on it there, dusT, but one of the frustrating things, and remember, I'm not just speaking out of nowhere. I actually ran an event. I've had to sit down and run the logistics. How many days does it take to do a bracket? And what happens if it goes 3 maps and over? I know all the problems TOs have. It's one of the reasons why you'll notice me and Kassad have a very different position, Maui. He always just says, because Kassad is very much Old Testament Yahweh, where he's just laying down commandments that never have any nuance. So he's like, I hate the thing where it's you skip to the semis. Yeah, in principle, I agree, Kassad. I don't want that. I want it to be, but I know what a nightmare it is to try and run 4 BO3s on the same day in the quarterfinals, or split them between days, and then people bitch about if they're on day 1 or day 2, or then they go, well, I had a day off, so that's why I was. In that scenario, I always say the ESL one with the 6 teams and the one that Blast copied is just a great compromise for how events run and the realities. Yeah. So similarly, right, people, when I say the following line, dusT, they're all going to think they got the gotcha. If I say, I don't even want stage 1, I just want double a limb for the playoffs, they're going to go, Thorin, that's more matches in an arena. No, it isn't. No one said that. You did that. You did the thing where you can't understand changing multiple factors. Here's what you could do. It's obvious. What you do is if you made a double a limb bracket, it could still be 8 teams. You just don't make all the matches be in the arena. Maybe only the upper semis goes in the arena, then the lower semis, there's still the same number of games. Maybe you have it like something like that. You know, the point is, if I'm looking the resources time, if the resources, we have an extra week, then can we, like we said, dusT, let's put it at the end of the tournament, which is the best part.
Exactly.
And by the way, I'll tell you right now, Valve, you will double the viewership, mate. No one's watching stage 1. When Chinggis Warriors plays Fluxor, no one even remembers who won that game except for the pick'ems. That's the only thing that makes people remember. Meanwhile, could you even imagine if Vitality lost in the upper bracket of the major, but there was a lower bracket elimination match they played? Holy fuck, everyone would tune into that. It'd be the greatest match of all time, wouldn't it? So, again, I will say, this isn't an area where it's like the end of the world. I think the solutions are all out there, mate. I think we've done a good job actually trying to come up with some here. We haven't just bitched for no reason. Like we said, dusT, I think you framed it well. It's not that, like, you know, we're trying to invent new things. This is an old approach to CS, which was, by the way, it was fine back then. You go back 2019, this is quite similar to other tournaments. It's not the end of the world. The problem is, I think we've solved elsewhere in the CS circuit a lot of these things. And lastly, I'll just say this. A lot of people say the reason you can't have the MRQ be a LAN is because of so many other tournaments in the circuit. That doesn't have to be an either or. You can still have the other LANs and just don't choose to attend it. Can the tournament organizer not run it and then the people who've already qualified just playing it? You know what I mean? Like, or Valve can lay down the law and say there's a bigger space of time blocked out and you can't put your tournament there. It's up to you, Valve. You can figure this all out, mate.
Here's my biggest issue with it, like, just to kind of wrap it up, is that, like, I mean, we got rid of the RMRs to go to online MRQs, which is bogus to me. Like, if that's the choice that we have to make, like, that's a ridiculous one that we've gone that direction. But I thought the whole point that we were sacrificing RMRs was because we were going to trust in this VRS system to give us the teams that we needed, to where we didn't need the RMRs anymore. So why is it that we have online MRQs? Just use the VRS.
I agree.
Just use the VRS only.
Yes.
Like, don't even have online MRQs. Like, figure out ways, like, if you're worried about other regions not being able to get in, then start, like, giving better VRS to, like, something like an ECL that's like a regional online league or something like that, or whatever the case needs to be. Like, just get rid of them entirely. Like, all they do is clutter the calendar, and they create an inferior way to qualify teams to the major compared to what would either be a improved VRS system or having some type of LAN qualification. And then, finally, like, people always talk about logistics and budget, and I get it, but if we had enough days for a stage 1, then we had enough days to make a better major overall. And then if it's a budget thing, Valve needs to be more financially helpful in helping the majors be worked. Then I don't know, like, they make so much money, like, make your product better by helping out these TOs financially a little bit better. Like, that's where I'm at.
Right, let's go to Maui's point. What is your ugly point, Maui?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was kind of overlapping. I'll change the order of mine. I'll pick something a little bit different here, because we kind of touched on a lot of format stuff there. I guess I'll say that what's bad is how the NA teams, and I'm just mostly talking about NRG, Complexity, and Wildcard, all did in the stage 1 of the major. I mean, I feel like, they all 3 got eliminated. I thought NRG was more on the cusp of like an 0-3 performance. They ended up kind of exceeding expectations lightly by going 2-3. But Wildcard, on the other hand, went 2-3, and I thought that they were a fairly sure thing to make it through. And on the final note, we had Complexity, who went 1-3, and yeah, they didn't have Halzerk, but like the core rifling trio of that team, and I guess I'm including JT instead of Nyx right now, couldn't actually muster up a little bit more. So all in all, you could take this in a few different directions, but I feel like the fact that 100% of the North American teams through the stage 1 didn't make it through is pretty pathetic, given that there's no real reason that it needs to be this bad. Like the way that they showed up, I guess, would be more like this. Like NRG exceeded expectations, but like in the final game versus Lynn Vision, they choked some big moments. And I thought that Nitro would be able to help in those kinds of situations. You know, he's an experienced leader. I thought the same thing about Wildcard with Stanislav. I thought he would be able to help out in those kinds of moments. And then also for Complexity, I guess, you know, I wasn't even terribly mad about Junior. Like, he didn't always have a lot of impact. Like, he had to save a lot, but the reason he has to save a lot is because the riflers are just dying on the other side of the map, and he can't even really get into the action. So I don't entirely blame him, but I almost find it kind of sad that for Complexity, they were not able to just put anything else forward when it's like, guys, making the semifinals of Bucharest was not just a one-man show of Halzerk carrying them. It was a lot of it was Grim along with Halzerk, and then even some moments from people like Sixy, Nyx, JT, and then for them to come in second to last place of the entire major. Like, thinking about a Complexity team, even with a stand-in doing as well as Chinggis Warriors, that was just unimaginable for me prior to them actually playing out stage 1.
I'll save a little bit from an ugly point later, but just to say here, like, yeah, it is tough that you have finally the first major in CS2 in North America, the first major in North America in like 7 years, and you've already lost 3 North American teams, and M80's looking like they very likely might not qualify to stage 3, in my opinion. They already lost their opening game. At this point, the TYLOO, they're playing OG next. We don't know how that result's going to go, but that's a very losable game for M80, in my opinion, so to go down 0-2. And then at that point, all you got left is a Liege playing on FaZe, and then you got 2 Canadians on Liquid, and it's just like, man, like, how far things have fallen. And look, NA has had their setbacks in the past, obviously, but they've always been able to, like, figure something out on at least 1 or 2 squads to be relevant. But now it just feels like I don't even know a way forward for some of these squads at this point, as we'll talk about a little bit later. So yeah, this is a very damning major in Austin for North American teams. Like, I would have expected Complexity, even with a stand-in, to be able to figure out something. Like, they still had Grim, who was looking like a fantastic rifler these last few lands that they have played since Elite departed. He had kind of reinvigorated himself even better than I thought he would be able to. They brought in a coach and a Dren who I thought would help them a little bit tactically if they needed that. So yeah, that's really tough. And then yeah, Wildcard's probably the biggest miss, because you had 3 best of 3s, you had 3 chances, and especially the one against Legacy, bro. Like, come on, like, they weren't even supposed to be at this major. You know what I mean? And like, in general, Wildcard has looked better on land than Legacy over the last 6+ months, or whatever you want to call it. So that one for me is unforgivable. And I know that there's like maybe some drama there because of the whole situation where, like, apparently Sonic might get replaced by Peeping, and like maybe there was some like things behind the scenes that made them not be where they needed to be mentally to perform at their best, or whatever the case may be. But you just got to put that shit aside and put pride on the line and try to take it as far as you can in a major. Okay. If anything, you're putting yourself in the shop window at least. So it's just like, yeah, very, very, very tough. I didn't expect Energy to go through, so in that sense, I'm not really disappointed, but it is rough that Wildcard and Complexity weren't able to at least make it to stage 2.
Hashtag save Sonic.
Yes, man.
There you go. The little cacoethy smile had to come out there. Look it up. That's a bit of lore for you. Anyway, what I will say is, since basically dusT has a point later about NACS, I won't touch on it and cannibalise it here. I'll just do Maui's angle. If you look at the teams that were in this stage 1, it's incredibly underwhelming. Like, there's a world on paper where, like, all of them could have gone through, basically. Like, why not? Like, it's totally plausible. Like, I'm not surprised. Like me, a lot of people didn't take call out of their pick'ems. I had them just in the 3-1, 3-2 one. Obviously, I didn't have them 3-0. I thought, by the way, people who did that, I have no idea what you're smoking. Like, send me some. But I certainly thought they should be able to make a 3-1, 3-2. Because, like, as you guys pointed out, first of all, if people don't know, ever since Elige left, I made this point in a past episode, numbers-wise, Grim's actually filled the slot. Now, I will say, you saw at this LAN why Grim is not fucking Elige. Look, first of all, eye test-wise, he was never Elige. But the difference is Elige could hard carry, mate. He had like his worst event of the fucking year, basically, almost, it felt like, in this one. And this is when they needed him the most. And by the way, if he even just came, not even with a top performance, he's had some great numbers this year, people don't know. If he just gave me like somewhere between the two, I think they'd have made it. I think they'd have crept through. They had a bunch of times they could have gone through. And then the other bummer is, basically, just like it used to be Elige and Halzerk, it is the Grim and Halzerk show in terms of firepower in this one. And sorry, CS2 is a lot about firepower. So I did think like Junior did not he was not it. That did not fit the cup of tea. So unfortunately, Cole ended up actually just looking kind of a bit weak. I mean, they were just lackluster in the game. NRG, I still think the saddest thing about them is if you look who the veterans are, understandably, they have some structure. Like, they have some decent CS, but they're toothless. They don't have anyone to knock you out. Where's the star players? That's the problem with that squad, isn't it? Like, it's people who could have been a good player once but never were, or people who were really great and it's years since they've been really good. So unfortunately, and then on this stage, look, I'll give you the prediction now. We've only had the first BO1. M80 ain't making it, mate. I mean, I'm surprised how many people put them 0-3. I don't know if I'd instantly lock them 0-3. I think I would have BO1 certainly, but that team, I think even people's interest in that team kind of waned from a few months ago. People hoped maybe they had something cooking. Look, let's be real. The real reason the Halzerk visa thing ruined the whole major for NA is because Call is supposed to be the real hope for NA. And then NRG's more like, oh, maybe Nitro, can cook something up and they can get like sneak their way through. And then Wildcard is actually just appropriately named Maui. That's just a team where they're not really on paper supposed to be good. But I'll tell you what, they are kind of like a wildcard in these tournaments. They tend to all the other lands to get upsets. You always think, oh, fucking hell, that's pretty legit, actually. You know what? Fair play. Maybe Stanislaus calling pretty well. Maybe the sus guy is pretty good, actually. This major, again, they just turned around and had their fucking seemingly their worst possible performance. Like, except for the fact that obviously they won the initial BO1s. I would struggle to see them play more bad BO3s in a row than this. Like, you put them in any other LAN, the joke is I think they'd do better against better competition than this. Like, you could put Wildcard against the aforementioned Gamer Legion and they could at least give them a match. They were getting rocked by fucking randos at this tournament. Like, aren't even going to be relevant in this major. So no, in general for NA it was bleak, certainly was. Right, if we go now to my bad, I have framed this very carefully. So I did another cross promotion, even though it's not actually an LFN show. I did a Feed the Trolls with Kassad, and the topic was who can win the major. And obviously we didn't do it like a stupid English class, like, well, technically everyone can win. No, we did the thing of like, what are the reasonable chances? And within that discussion, the obvious first place that conversation gets really interesting is in spot 4, isn't it? Because everyone will agree Vitality could obviously win, Falcons in theory could win, maybe Mousecat. It gets interesting the second you hit Spirit, doesn't it? Because here's the part people forget. They're the reigning champions. They even won Blast Bounty at the beginning of the year and then they were in the championship final. Like, on paper, everyone should have a way in their mind to model a world where Spirit goes back to back. But the bad point, and this is why I framed it as bad, is I don't feel like anyone, and I don't care what they say now, I saw their faces, including Spirit. I don't think anyone believes they can win this major. I think everyone really does. The joke is, I was ahead of my time. You know, when I called the Na'Vi major to be a fluke, I think everyone now thinks the Spirit major was a fluke. Like, I don't think anyone goes like, hey, we were all wrong. Everyone just thinks like, that Spirit was last year and this year's different. And, you know, so essentially, dusT, it's that I don't think it feels like anyone believes Spirit can repeat, which... look, I don't either, but I'll say this. I hate that I don't, because on paper I should be able to find a way that, like, if they play really great CS, if Donk does, you know, I mean, you expect him to do it at 1.4 rating. There's all these reasons why, but I feel like no one believes in it, which feels strange, because on paper they should still be able to win.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like, they're clearly at least number 4 in the world right now behind, you know, obviously Vitality, Mouse Sports, and Falcons. They obviously have the best player in the world in Donk and doing it in an impossible role, which is just incredible to have that level of, like, puncher's chance where he can just win a whole round by himself. I've also liked the dynamic of Shiro becoming a more aggressive operator these last few tournaments, which gives him, like, a little different shade of, like, what he's capable of providing the team, which gives even more support to Donk. Outside of that, we've always wondered about Zontics and Magics and what you're going to get out of them, sure. But either way, yeah, they're a top 4 team. I think the big issue with Spirit is, A, they didn't play some tournaments, so they weren't constantly battling against, like, the Mouse Sports and Falcons of the world to kind of prove where they actually stand, because we basically had to de facto make Spirit number 4 because we were just watching Mouse and Falcons take Vitality to the limits in some grand finals and some best of 3s. We saw Falcons and Mouse Sports trade series against each other between, like, Melbourne and Dallas and things of that nature where they were, like, really battling for number 2. But then Spirit was just kind of like, not really around. Like after Katowice, yeah, they played EPL and they got knocked out of that by Mouse Sports. And then Lisbon, they got knocked out by Vitality. But then we really didn't see them other than like Rivals. Like Rivals was really the only time we saw them play. And they didn't even look close against Vitality in that game. They didn't show any of the same ability to play them close that we saw from a Mouse Sports and a Falcons kind of throughout the course of the year. And then I think they've only played Falcons once and they lost. And then they played Mouse like twice and lost both of them. So it's just like, their head-to-head against those teams make it look like they're below them, but we haven't seen them interact that much. And then, yeah, like they've only played Vitality a couple of times, and again, they didn't look nearly as close against them as the other squads did. So that is tough that your major reigning champion just seems so far out of the loop, but I think they kind of did it to themselves by not playing as many events as some of the other teams and just not being able to prove themselves against the teams ranked above them that they could get a win against them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with Spirit, I'll just say I told you so with the whole Year of the Dragon take. I mean, okay. I'll fall back on that one because obviously
you and the Chinese, they technically saw thousands of years ago, but they're so prescient. It's incredible, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, I when I made that take, it was that I also said they wouldn't win any tier 1 trophies if
dusT, to fill you in, and I'll use you as a stand-in for the fans. Basically, the take is because their logo is a dragon, and the Year of the Dragon was last year, and it actually ended, believe it or not, I believe around February because around the Lunar New Year went.
It was like January 25th.
That was right after they won Blast Bounty, so it's also like the most convenient. It's actually a pretty well-crafted narrative, I've got to say. It's pretty good.
I remember hearing
it's not really based in reality, but it's pretty good. I've got to say, it's pretty good.
It was good. Good.
That is reality. It's my reality. Okay. And it's the reality of two teams that are still in the major. So respect China.
Okay. Yeah. I will also
I think the topic in general is just like one where it's hard for us to believe that Spirit, through structural change of play, is going to suddenly level up because there's only a finite amount of talent on that roster that even if unless you are bringing prime Navi of 2024 into the fray in terms of tactical depth and just how thorough they were approaching their rounds, which I do not think Spirit are ever going to become, or at least in the blink of an eye, then I have no really reason to believe that they're going to level up by 25%, which I think is the bare minimum needed for them to go through the gauntlet of Vitality, Falcons, Mouse. Like, I guess, yeah, sure. Could they draw a ridiculously easy bracket? And are they in the running if that occurs? Yeah, if there's some kind of underdog that they're able to play because they 3-0 the stage 3 and then they get somehow the top teams start taking each other out on the other side of the bracket. That's pretty much the only way I see Spirit having a chance here. And then it really is just one BO3 versus another top roster. But it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like if you line them up versus all of the other teams that are in the top 4 that they would actually have a chance. Whereas I could see a world where Vitality does that very easily. I could see a world where Falcons does that with some difficulty, but it is possible. I don't really see that world for Mouse, if I'm being completely honest, but I do think that Mouse could beat Falcons or Spirit. So then it's really just down to the 30%, 35% chance that they beat Vitality at the end of it all.
I mean, I would even give the analogy, if it weren't like a sports reference. Just think of this season's Nuggets. They, in theory, have the best player. Jokic is the best player in the NBA. Mate, they was taking so much hard work to win any playoff game against any opponent. Even if they'd have won the NBA, I wouldn't have blamed anyone who wouldn't have picked them. Because how could you? And it feels the same with this. First of all, you just expect Dunk to have to drop a 20 bomb, and then that might even win you the game. Fucking hell. And by the way, when I say win you the game, I don't mean against Vitality. That might not win you the game against fucking this G2 or Heroic or something. Fucking hell. So I think, and also, on the boot camp thing, that is a relevant point. I'll speculate here. Get ready, play.gg/magic/whoever tells Magic's what we said on the show, pull up or whatever. This is the part where you all get mad, even though we're just fucking spitballing. It is a talk show, for fuck's sake. It's water cooler talk. I will speculate. If you notice that they didn't just say, like they did in the past when they were all happy-go-lucky, pressure doesn't get to us. They didn't just go, we're just not boot camping, but it doesn't matter. All cool. Lol. Haha, we all look of anime, don't we? They were all like pissy about it. They were all like, and we don't care what anyone else says and what you think, because I'll tell you what I speculate there. You know, last year, we used to say it was a strength of this team when they could boot camp and when them and Hallie could get in a room and figure out the maps. I think I know the reason they're A, not boot camping, and B, they don't want to do it. Because, bro, they've had the same exact lineup the whole time, and it doesn't look like right now they're considering roster moves. So if you are in a position where you have just been bumping your head against the wall for, at this point, months, and you can't get it, there's nothing to find in that boot camp. You've already tried it all. You know, it's not like you introduce a new player. By the way, if you don't know, this is why I also don't believe they can win the major. They've tried every map. If you go back to the beginning of when they came on the scene, they've rotated their map a bunch of times. They used to be like the Kings of Nuke. They've done dusT, they've gone to a new bit. They've tried everything they can already. I think they've exhausted everything. And so I think they genuinely know that, one, there's nothing to find in the boot camp that will make them number one. Two, and this is crazy speculation, but don't worry, I'm Thorin, motherfucker. I also think when you have a team that's on the fucking pressure cooker position they are in, where you were the reigning champions, you're probably not going to win. You don't want to have that boot camp, mate. That's like a steel cage death match where the team implodes before you even get to the major. That's where you get really frustrated with the guy next to you when you're losing the scrims or you can't get the new map. Mate, it's better that you're at home and you go off for the 5 minutes and have your Coca-Cola and you clear your head and he's not in the room of smoking and making some stupid comment to you, and then you don't have to sleep next to him and watch an anime movie next to him later on or whatever. And go, is that my favourite 3,000-year-old vampire girl? Yeah, no, wait, it's the other one where they're in prison or whatever. That's the way I even made a real reference to an anime, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Then whatever. Every now and then I tease that I'm based while I also mock you for watching children's cartoons, which actually now makes me sound really sinister, but don't worry about it. Anyway, to bring it all back, I actually think that and also, by the way, I'll just shade this in there because I don't know actually how much it is in their case, but I know fans always get mad when we don't bring this up. Technically, I believe one of the reasons they specifically have to skip more events than other teams is because, remember, they even have to get visas to come to Europe. And one of the tricky things about getting visas is when you're getting the visa, you have to give them your passports. You can't be at an event while you're getting the visa unless it was in your home country, basically. So the problem they have is sometimes I also think because there's so many events, think about these last two events that were back to back. Sometimes they just can't do all the events as far as I know. So true, they do. It does look like they want to boot camp more generally anyway, but I also think sometimes they can't do all the events. But by the way, that still plays to your point. If we don't see them at the lands, and especially we haven't seen them have enough chances to beat, the Falcons of the world, then no one's going to believe in them. That's just a sad reality, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I mean, that's the bottom line. Like, again, kind of what we're talking about, like, if you're Spirit and you're trying to get one over on Falcons and Mouse Sports, and then obviously Vitality's even way further ahead of that, while you have the most talented player in the game right now, in my opinion, with Donk, the other teams just have more well-distributed talent.
Yes.
Like, your Zontics and your Magics is not going to match up well against their counterparts on the fellow teams that I just mentioned. So you're going to be behind across the map skill-wise. And then, I just don't see how they get a tactical edge over any of the teams ranked above them right now with the in-game leaders and coaches that those teams have and what we've seen out of them on the server and how they look and play their team play, their mid-rounding. Like, I just don't see where Spirit gets an edge in any of those facets. And, I think their dusT 2 is still pretty money, and the fact that they play Train's a nice little wild card for them. But outside of that, I just don't, like, you can never count on them, is my point. Like, you're never going to count them as a favorite in those matchups. And that's really the issue.
I agree, dusT. I don't know where they're going to find their edge. And you know what a synonym for edge could be? Ridge. And so if you want to find a ridge, what you could do is go to ridge.com/ it's on screen, snake, all one word, just the word snake. And then you can they've got a massive Father's Day sale coming on, up to 40% off your order. So head to ridge.com/ snake for the perfect gift for Father's Day, all this. If you don't know, by the way, this actually is it's a wallet. This actually really is a bag of gift for any man in your life. Like, first of all, look at the size of it. It's really small, it's compact. This means it expands the more cards you put in, but the less cards you put in, it also goes in. So it's however many you put in, it'll always be nice and tight. You can put all different additions on the back. You can put a coin tray, you can put a clip if you want to go on the back, some jeans or something, or a belt. I don't do that. Obviously, I just put this one where I just go and put my bonus cards. This is a thing for getting like gourmet sausages or whatever. That's my only time I veer into Maui territory there. If you get enough of those, you get the free one or whatever. Also, they have all different colours. I just chose a fairly plain blue one, but they have all like different like metallic looking designs and cool blends, etc. What else? They have a key case too that can fit up to 6 keys. Also really good. By the way, it stops the keys jangling. So now when you walk down the street, it doesn't sound like an old-fashioned jailer in a debtor's prison in fucking Dickensian times coming to let you out because you have Fagin or something. Why am I referencing all this stuff you haven't even read? Whatever. You all know A Christmas Carol. There you go. That'll do for now. Anyway, the point is they have actually all this extra tech if you're into that sort of thing. Like actually you can get it where it has an RFID blocker so that like digital hackers can't go past to like scan your card and get your card data, etc., which apparently is a real thing. And they have like, the fucking peace of mind guarantee thing where if you it's actually a lifetime warranty on this one, and they have where if you don't like it, you can get it money back or whatever. So yeah, check it out. I've actually had one of these for 4 years, of coming up on 5 years now. Really good. I'm actually really glad I did swap. I used to have an old-fashioned wallet. I've told that story a million times, so I won't tell again. But anyway, I think actually, first of all, it's a good gift for you if you want to support the show, and you get up to 40% off using ridge.com/snake. But also, if it is for like Father's Day or something, I think this is a cool gift to buy him, because it's one of those things that he won't think to buy himself, but when he uses it, if he likes it, it's going to be awesome. And also, when you have it like this, if you don't know, because it's got like a little indent there, personally, certain cards I don't ever take out, like the one I used to go on the tram, I just like skim half the card out, do the scan, and then I put it back in. It's also easy. That way I'm not taking it out and then have to put it away, and then, am I putting it in my pocket? Do I get out the doors? It just makes it super easy. So check out Ridge Wallet. Thank you for Ridge and everyone who purchases them. Now let's go to the ugly. So dusT, what is ugly in CS right now?
So ugly, I'm going to kind of link it to the bad point that Maui made about what we've seen for the North American teams at the major, but I'm kind of just using it as a launching off point, not my actual ugly point. So obviously we have the situation where none of the North American teams made it past stage 1. M80 looks like they're up against the ropes in stage 2 already. And so it's not looking like they're going to be making a whole lot of progress. And the issue for me is I just don't even know if there's a way forward or a future for NA right now, because North American CS has faced... Well, let me get to it. So my problem is this. It's like in the past when we've had setbacks, so obviously the match fixing bans where we lost some talented players and some in-game leaders, we eventually did have teams rise up like Optic, Energy, Liquid, obviously. Like they were able to have an eventual bounce back to represent our scene and be relevant internationally. And then even when we had like the whole Valorant talent siphon take place in North America and, the whole COVID era situation where it was all online. And so North American teams were kind of unable to really play against European teams because they were kind of stuck over here. We still eventually got Liquid to a decent level, and even early in CS2 with like IM City and stuff like that, Complexity with the Liege was able to get some pretty big results. It's like there was at least some hope, there was somebody out there that could maybe do something internationally. But if you look at where we are now, I just don't even know like what the way forward is, because you look at Liquid, there's only 2 Canadian players on that team now. It's not really a North American team anymore, majority. And we don't really know what they're even going to look like going forward anyway, even if you really do bank on those 2 Canadian players. Then you have Complexity, who had like the flash in the pan moment at PGL Bucharest, but they really haven't had anything going for them otherwise, if we're 100% honest. Nick X and Sixy don't look like they're it, other than like a life performance from Sixy at Bucharest. So like, I just don't see how that's going to pan out. Then you look at M80, and yes, they were able to accomplished a job of making it to the major, but they haven't done anything other than placing top 8 at EPL last year at season 20. Other than that, you look at their last few lands, they have really, really struggled when you look at the last season of EPL, Blast Lisbon, Astana, like the list goes on of struggles for M80. Then Energy, we just saw them crash out of stage 1 of the major. They also didn't look good at IM Dallas and EPL, so they're not really going anywhere. And then Wildcard's kind of in the same boat in Liquid, as far as, for now at least, they only have 2 North American players. And maybe they're going to get a third is kind of the thing, but it's like, I just don't see like where the upcoming talent's going to be coming from, because yes, JBA and Lake represented names that had some potential, and they still haven't been playing long enough to really know. Maybe a George needs more time, maybe a Peeping needs more time. I'm not really sure, but I just feel like when you look at some of these other guys out there, like I just don't think 60 and Nick X are it for Complexity. I just don't see it happening. I think we've hit a stagnant point with Rec and Swisher on M80. I just don't see them getting any better or that looking any good. And so it's just like, what do we have to look forward to? Like, I just haven't even really heard of any other names that, other than like maybe Kalasia or something, that really even sound promising. We have 0 opping prospects in North America right now. It's just OC and Junior, who have been around for ages at this point. I haven't heard of any other names really coming up. So you're just relying on imports at that point for in-game leaders. And speaking of relying on imports, what IGL candidates do we even have? Like JT's South African, and he's a pretty good IGL for Complexity.
Right?
I'll agree for that.
Stan and Nitro, that's it, right?
Yeah, that is it. Stan and Nitro is it, literally. Right? And obviously Nitro's not even doing that well with Energy. So it's just like, he went back and forth to Valorant twice. Like, what is the state of the scene where that guy is able to go back and forth between competitive titles twice and still wind up being one of our best IGL cans because no one else has really come up? And M80 is relying on an import IGL from Germany with Sin. So we don't even really have a way to develop talents or teams because we don't really have IGLs that are helping rise them up other than the two that we just named, the Nitro and Stan. So I just don't see a way forward for NA right now. Maybe I'm being overly, pessimistic, but I'm not really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, in my opinion.
I mean,
Save me, Maui.
yeah, I mean, so you got into the players and the teams as well as I mean, anybody really could. I mean, those are fair call outs for the majority of people there. I point to like the whole state of it as being just financial. I mean, it's economically driven. Because, I mean, here's something that's going to trigger a lot of Europeans really quickly. It's that people think that it's because Americans aren't hardworking, and they want to believe that Europeans are somehow more hardworking, that they put their nose to the grindstone, they just go for it or whatever. Dude, the cost of living in most of Eastern Europe is like 50% cheaper than it is to live in Oklahoma City, okay? Like I would never wish Oklahoma City living on like the worst of my enemies at this point, but it is still a city that costs 50% more than living in like Kyiv. And yeah, I'm sure Kyiv is like a little bit of a stretch, but even like Prague, it's like 25 per, even if you go on like places like Numbeo and see these price comparisons, it's like Oklahoma, which is like one of the cheapest cities you could possibly live in, to my knowledge, in America, is still more expensive than like Prague. Okay, so it's like you're playing against all of the odds in terms of financial backing, and for one, there aren't that many orgs in North America right now because the return on investment is practically entirely built into, do you get stickers or not? If you don't get stickers, there's no way you're going to support this team because there's not enough money to go around for tier 2, tier 3 tournaments where you're ever going to turn a profit in any way. The only advantage that Americans have when it comes to building an organization is that because the US is so large, and if you have like a Pepsi sponsorship in America, that's good for all 50 states, and you reach out. It's a really large reach. If you get a single sponsorship for almost any product in America, you can turn that into selling it to the whole country essentially. But for Europe, yes, there's more difficulties in big sponsors and anything like that. But really, the only teams that are going to get the big sponsors are Liquid, maybe Complexity. Like even if you go down to M80 or Wildcard, like once you get down to Wildcard, the sponsorships get pretty slim already. So you're not really working with as much there in terms of finances. And so what am I going to do if I'm like a tier 2? Like what? I just don't. The drive before for me when I was competing was that I would get a talent job. Like I never had any question about like, what am I trying to do with my time in Counter-Strike? It was like, I knew from the get-go, I'm going to get into talent because I knew the pay was higher. I knew that, I mean, I had a background in media work. So that's why another reason why I was going for it, because I had already worked on, as a production assistant and everything like that. I kind of knew what I was in for in this kind of capacity, but to grind, like Swisher was somebody I played on a team with for maybe like 6 months, and we were pretty similar level. If you look at our ratings when we were on the same team, like we were pretty similarly like HLTV rating. He finally made it to his first major like 5 years after I gave up. After I said, okay, I'm full-time talent at this point. I don't need to play anymore. I've already proven myself or whatever. Like the playing aspect of my career has served me already. But think of what he would have had to go through financially in those 5 years, whereas I was just working on broadcasts, making day rates for tier 1 TOs for 4 or 5 years. Like I have a good amount of savings now, whereas he's just like now earning the money that he can now support his life with. It's just not even close. But on the other hand, you think of CCT and what that means for the tier 2 European space, and even what CCT or other tier 2 organizers are doing in Brazil. Like the amount of money that you have to invest there is night and day different. If you put up a 25K event in Europe, you are going to get teams that are in the top 25 to 50 to like 60 in Europe. So one, there's actually watchability because the teams are actually kind of decent already. And two, these teams can actually support themselves when they win a 10K first place prize money, like prize pool. That helps a lot in Poland. Like if you win that is a lot. That's a good amount of money. You can pay all your groceries and everything. But in North America, dude, if my team ever won 10K and it's divided between 6 of us, we're like, shit, we're gonna pay like half of our rent this month. Okay, crazy. Like when are we gonna win 4 more of those so I can actually live a normal life? Like the draw financially for Americans is next to nil. And I am not delusional about that whatsoever. And I know that Europeans want to always say it's like it's our culture is what's holding it back, us back, or that we want to be stars. It's like, yes, the reason everybody wants to be a star in America or they get into streaming is because literally it is what funds their lives. Like I know, like Cooper for a fact is making more than people on M80. Like think about that for a second. Like he's making way more dough than I bet he's making more money than anybody on, with the exception of maybe somebody on, like maybe one person on Complexity might make more than Cooper, or maybe like Liquid, obviously. Like Liquid players make more than Cooper, but you know what I mean? Like just a couple sponsorships from streaming and just kicking back, playing ESEA Advance on stream and just raking in from those kinds of sponsors is way more lucrative. There's no question about it.
I've got a few angles for you here. Like, you guys have done a good job doing like different roaches, so I'll give a different shade too, which is, first of all, I'll tie in briefly to what Maui's talking about. Another angle that people don't think about, because it's different if you're European, is in America, it is a massive deal to have a healthcare plan. That is one of the number one reasons to get a job with a big company, because then they pay all your healthcare. Oh, and by the way, they also do like a 401k and contribute towards essentially like your own pension at that point in time. Like, these are real reasons why in America you want to be part of like the job system. If you're a pro gamer, you're like some guy in the wild, you may as well be a pool hoster at that point in time. You got fuck all healthcare and dental. Like, by the way, don't ever break your leg, fucking do something. You're gonna be in a bad shape. But then there goes all the money that you just won from that tournament or that CCT or whatever. Then also you've got the angle that like if you're someone who would think about going to university, right, you know that story from 10 years ago where Carrigan was simultaneously IGLing TSM to like LAN wins over Fnatic while doing a business degree in like masters in like that couldn't even be a thing in America. There's no universe where that college professor's going, yeah, don't worry about doing that paper. Just turn it in a month and a half when you come back from the LAN. That's not even a feature. You can do school remotely, I've heard, with certain people. But if you're going to be someone who goes to uni, well, I'm sorry. If you cut off all the people that go to uni, you're by definition going to take out some of the talent pool. They're going to be leaving the game and going and doing that. You can also, in some of the European ones, because it costs less money to go to university here, you can take like a sabbatical year and test out your career and see, does this even work for me? If it doesn't, great. It was just 1 year off, straight back into my degree. If I take 2 or 3 years, if it goes really great, maybe I never come back. In America, that's you might have already spent 40k at that point in time. The gamble is crazy that you're taking at that point in time. And by the way, imagine the pressure that's going to put on you when you do it. So these are just other things people haven't thought of that are other like stresses and pressures that I think are the reasons why people don't do it. And then you nailed it, by the way. It definitely is the case that like the other problem you had was, I'll tell you one area where it is a culture-based thing, Maui, and that is that Americans, because they're chasing the one that can pay the money and that's got the fame and has like a healthy scene, they're of the newer player. It's very rare. Like the people on call, I don't know them, but I'd love to know how they even came to CS. Like, to me, bro, why aren't you in Valorant? Like, I would have thought you'd be in Valorant 5 years ago. Is it just your age? You only like CS? Because I have to say, there's way less European talents went to Valorant. Way less. Partly maybe because, like Vayu says, you can support yourself as like the 48th best team in HLTV if you're from Eastern Europe. That'll still be a good salary. That's you probably have to be top 20 or you get nothing relative to America. I'd rather be in Valorant in that world. Like in Valorant, it's a way more popping game, and spoiler, they're way more competitive from NA in Valorant than they are in fucking CS. Like, that's not even a debate, really.
I think that was true the first couple of years of Valorant, but now, like, if you try to go to Valorant now, like, you're not getting anywhere.
No, I'm not saying go now. I'm saying why would any talent choose CS over Valorant? No, even today, why would they choose it over that?
I don't think you're getting anywhere in Valorant either today.
Well, Valorant recently kind of gutted their tier 2 move up process.
All right, let me give you a reason why then. Here's another reason why you don't go. Here's the reason why you go to Valorant and not to CS. Because if you go to Valorant, you can join some of the biggest North American orgs. And by the way, that scales up and now it makes sense. You know the reason why? Essentially, what Maui said, if you rephrase it, is I can't work on Eastern European wages while living in North America. That doesn't make sense. That economy, the juxtaposition is crazy. Whereas if I work in the North American economy, like if I play for Gen G or fucking some squad like that, they're going to have access to massive sponsors. I mean, that's a bad example because that's a Korean org, but you know what I mean? Like they have Silicon Valley owners, whatever. Anyone knows all the old orgs that used to be Envy and all the old ones that were back in the day, all the TSMs, etc. Those orgs don't exist in CS. Like, notice how when you guys were listing off the NA teams, right, we'll take for a second Team Liquid out the equation. No one really knows what happened to EG. We'll put them on the shelf for a second. Think of the ones we've currently got, right? Wildcard aren't even a team. I don't even know that team in other games. games. Complexity is only CS. They're almost like a legacy org that just care about CS specifically. M80 aren't even relevant in some of these other games. They're like a tier 2 or tier 3 org. So you haven't even got the big orgs. It's basically just the TLs of the world that are still in the game. Well, the joke is FaZe Clan is an American org, but they don't bloody care about Americans, do they? So that also is a problem because there is a giant, by the way, money market in America. You just can't get any of it to the CS players. You're all playing for tier 2 and 3 orgs where you're getting way less money. And then also, I'll add this in as well, which is another bomber is, you guys sort of touched on it, but in every other scene, like here's the obvious example. Right? Could you imagine if we took Aurora, the former Eternal Fire, and I said, right, Xantares is going to G2, and then I'm going to take Woxic. No, bad news. He now plays on FaZe. Oh, and then Jota, pretty good, isn't he? Yeah, unlucky for you. Jota plays on Gamer Legion. How the fuck would Aurora ever have a good team from Turkey? That's what NA's done to itself. Because Elish plays in FaZe, Twists and Naf play in fucking Team Liquid. Those aren't NA teams. So you've also done it where you can't even have one really good team or two with 2 or 2 stars each. Like, you also have trimmed off the talent, by the way, in part because of things like financial reasons and the teams aren't good enough to compete. The last thing I'll say is this, because I want to throw out one little bit of light at the end of the tunnel that isn't a fucking train. And this is it, which is the one angle I could see potentially working, but the problem is it's a long-term project. It's not a project for today. It's a project for like 1 or 2 years from now. Is if you know how in world soccer football, so everyone in this call, it's for the fans who are listening here. In national level football, it used to be the case essentially that it was very limited which countries were good. It was the classic ones: Brazil, Italy, Spain, France, in theory, England, Germany. The really big names were always dominating. And what happened was, one of the things that turned around some of the smaller countries and made them vaguely competitive at World Cups and stuff was they actually got coaches that weren't from their country. They'd get like some legendary Italian coach at the end of his career and be like, come and coach our like small like Iceland or something, or they'd get, they do this. And this approach, by the way, I actually think could work in NA. Here's where an area you could spend money. Get someone who is a really good coach, could be from another region, and tell him your job is to have a main team, could be like the call team, but your actual side job is we're going to have an academy team, and your job is to scout and develop those players. Not just have an academy team and one day tell me is a player good. You're going to work with those players hands-on, and you're going to figure out which ones you're going to one day bring into your main team. Because at the moment, there's no pipeline of talent. The pipeline all went to Valorant, or it's just stuck playing online tier 3, where the joke is half of them are fucking match fixing still. Like, I think you need someone with the vision to fight, because if you notice, you can say about talent and money. One thing they have nailed in Eastern Europe, bro, is that academy system. They're cooking with those things, mate. Even when they don't go to their team, they go to other teams. You develop players that actually, I used to think that was all a scam dust. I used to think it'll only be you'll get the odd Monacy and the odd donk. It's not about Monacies and donks. Like, you could go like 10 names deep on most of the academies there, and they've all had some, like, the joke is they are the bait players now. They are the players in Namiga. They're all those players. You just don't know if you don't know the background. They came from the quad. So I actually would like that aspect, even though I know I'm dreaming on this one. I feel like you also have to get further back on the pipeline and start bringing these people through, because at the moment, Call only really went for those players because they lost to Liege. Like, I don't think they would have even given some of those guys a try otherwise. So if they were any good, we'd have never known. Wouldn't they just be in some online MRQ qualifier and not making it to the major,
Yeah, Mouse is an example in itself. Their whole main team almost was an academy team at one point. So yeah,
well, that's even a great example, by the way, dusT, because actually Mouse, because everyone else went international, no longer had the edge to just have international players. They were going to be lost. They weren't at the top of the scene anymore. They had to gamble on the academy, and that's what brought them back. No, I'm with you. Here's the thing, boys. I want to talk to you about one of Maui's favourite concepts. It's obviously Aura. But if you don't know, he actually also does have one of these frames. Aura frames, you're going to think, are you really going to do an ad for a frame on a Counter-Strike show? No, because first of all, obviously my whole thing is narrative, which is about framing, and it's about taking snapshots and showing how they relate to other things. Well, you know what? Why don't you take a snapshot of your relatives and see how your life fits together? Because actually one of the dope things about Aura frames, it's a digital frame, and what you basically do is super easy to set up. You can set up in literally a few minutes. You can just go to someone's house and do this for them, by the way. It has basically like super duper cloud access where you're not like paying some crazy fee. You just get it once you've got it, basically. You can put loads of photos on. You can put even like little 30-second videos. And one of the coolest things about this, obviously Father's Day is coming up, is these are mega gifts. I always say this because this is what I literally did myself. These are really good gifts to give to family members. Like, if you think of any family member who isn't around you all the time, assuming you don't live at home, so like your mum, your grandma, an aunt, could be your dad especially if he works away from home or something. What's dope about these frames is because they're digital frames, use. You can even hook it up, so if you give it to your grandma, you can be the one that at home puts the photos on. She doesn't have to know anything about computers. You can just basically set it up on a Wi-Fi, and then at home, where instead of just putting pictures on your Instagram account or whatever, or Snapchatting them to be, I don't even know what the kids use. Well, I'm saying Snapchat's about 15 years old, but whatever apps you all use, put them on there, and then grandma gets to see your latest picture of you, and then hover hand in a girl, all that shit with the boys in the... You're probably putting the mascot outfit on, let's be real, not really on the sports team, but whatever you're doing, they get to be a part of your life. And here's the thing, believe it or not, that will actually mean a lot to them. I'm being serious. They will actually, I think they will take this as a really kind gesture and go, oh, wow, he really cares about me. They won't know you just heard some British guy sell you really well on this ad, and that you get $30 off, because you do. If you go to auraframes.com, then for Father's Day, limited time only, you get $30 off their best-selling Carver mat frame. That's the one I have. I have a few of them, actually. So that's AURA frames.com. Promo code is on the screen at the bottom right. It is S&B, standing for Snake and Banter, obviously. And at the checkout, they will potentially ask, where did you hear about it? Just say, Last Free Nation or Snake and Banter or something. That will also help us as well as purchase it. But also, you get to get $30 off. I actually think this is a banger. Genuinely, of all the things we actually put forwards, I do like a lot of the other ones. I'll never lie and say I do if I don't. But this is actually probably my favourite of the things that sponsor us, because I actually genuinely have one myself. And actually, if I'd have known about this content, I would have considered buying it myself. I don't need to, but if I did, I would get $30 off. Thank you for everyone who supports us. Right, Maui, what is your ugly point?
Yeah, mine, I kind of shifted it, so hopefully it doesn't overlap with yours. It just felt like we had too much overlap over. Okay, so my ugly point is kind of a spin, where it's only ugly in that it's at the cost of NA, I suppose. But it is a little self-serving there.
Okay.
It's just that, okay, basically, I wanted to make a point about how pleasant it was as a surprise to see the Chinese teams make it through.
Okay.
And almost in comparison to the North American teams, which failed. So my ugly point is really just a second good point. I'll just be honest.
As if Maui's actually doing the hey buddy, you better learn Chinese meme or something.
No, it's more like it's more like Jam Young. You better learn English, okay? Because this guy, because they were sick.
That's
okay, I mean, I'm gonna be real, The way that legacy.
My apologies. Instead of doing that complicated thing where I say get a legendary coach, just basically pay for lessons for G and Jam Young to learn English like that. That's probably quicker at this point, Maui. At this point.
Yeah. I mean, Lynn Vision and TYLOO both impressed me with just the way that they made it through. They didn't have say the toughest runs, obviously. Lynn Vision, they beat Legacy, they beat Chinggis Warriors, and they beat NRG. Again, one of those is a North American organization, so it is at their cost. And then TYLOO, they beat Metasport, they beat Complexity, and they beat FlyQuest. I mean, in terms of the tier 2 sort of scene, those are reasonable teams to beat, to think that what they're doing is actually showing some progress. So TYLOO on top of that, just already in their BO1 opener, beat M80 again. So the record for Asian teams versus American teams is pretty good. I mean, technically, Wildcard and NRG did take some maps off of TYLOO and Lynn Vision, but regardless of that fact, just the fact that they made it through, okay? I feel like this is something that's been brewing for a while, and I feel like the early signs of it were Mongols breaking into the top 10, breaking into the top 5, and now it feels like their success is actually starting to bleed into what's happening throughout the rest of the region. I also think that it doesn't hurt when you're playing in the Asia region and you have tournaments like the Asian Championship League that has a 300K prize pool between some of the best teams in Asia, including FlyQuest, including Lynn Vision, TYLOO, and that they're bringing more to the table in a league there than really anything we're getting in North America. We don't really have right now a North America exclusive league that has a prize pool that's of that significance. We have ESL Challenger League, and then it just jumps up, or I guess you want to say Fragadelphia, which barely, I mean, again, these are land costs where it's going to the land for a lot of people costs more than even playing in the land, the winning the land. So there's really nothing in terms of comparison. And again, it's not really ugly. It's almost just good. It's nice to see that the Asian scene is investing more money and it's actually paying off in terms of FlyQuest was pretty competitive. Yeah, they went 2-3, but Lynn Vision, TYLOO already through. TYLOO with a win under their belt in this space. So all in all, I mean, it's kind of cool to see that there's so much talent too. I'll bring up the fact that this is slightly off meta Counter-Strike. It's not always as clean. It feels like sometimes the ideas are a little bit the crossfires they set up are almost I don't really know why they are positioned the way they are, or I don't really always love how individualistic the mid rounding gets for them. But I kind of just boil that down to indecision in mid rounds more than actually bad structure, because the way they start their rounds is decent. Like I like TYLOO looks good enough when they play the first 30 seconds of most rounds, and then the skill backs up even sometimes suboptimal play.
Yeah, I mean, I think watching, the scene in Asia has been really interesting. I think you're right. I think the fact that they do have like these pretty notable regional lands to play that have big prize pools and like bring together, not only teams that like Rare Adam, TYLOO, Lynn Vision and Mongols, but you're also bringing in like Shingus Warriors, you're bringing in Huns, you're bringing in some of the other Chinese teams and other teams from Asia. Like it is giving them like a better environment to actually play offline, get used to the idea of being on stage and just being able to get good reps in against other teams that, the Mesa Nomadic Masters is like another example where they even got a little bit of like tier 2 European mix involved in it. So they definitely have like some nice development tools when it comes to the lands and stuff and leagues that they get to play in. Also, they didn't really just have the same talent drain that other regions did when it came to like people leaking to other games. Like a lot of the old school guys like Attacker and some of these dudes that have been around for ages are still there, transitioning to IGL and leadership type roles and helping develop the next generation of talent, like your Jam Young, like some of the guys that are over on Rare Adam with Child King and things of that nature. So it's just like you're getting to see that passing of the torch, so to speak, within like the generations of players within the region. And yeah, Mongols is legitimately like a top 5 team in the world. We haven't really had a team from Asia ever really be able to claim that before. Even whenever they would have like little flash in the pan map upsets at a tier 1 tournament or make it to a major, like no one has ever in Asia been able to accomplish what Mongols has been able to accomplish these last couple of years, and to see them break through that way is really awesome. So yeah, I agree. Like it's at the expense of North America, obviously, that things are so ugly that Asia has now usurped, I guess you could say, North America in like the regional rankings, which we didn't really foresee happening for a while. Like it already had happened when Brazil kind of took over North America for a while in the rankings, and now all of a sudden you have Asia doing it as well. So damning for North America, but cool to see Asia be able to just to take these steps forward as a scene. We had a major in that region recently as well, so like it's cool that we have that market becoming available to international Counter-Strike.
Here's the thing. People will know if they've watched any of my streams. I'm not really a big fan of any of these teams. I like the Mongols a lot. I'm not really a fan of the Chinese teams in general. But I will say this. They're not just like blank teams that are just like bots that enter the server. Like TYLOO especially, by the way, actually has a surprising amount of firepower. Like, first of all, the Jam Young guy just is legit. Like, if that guy was from any European country, you'd all be loving
He's hella good.
and saying, like, put him on fucking G2. Of course, yeah. Like, mate, he'd be like the Malbs of their region. Like, that guy's clearly very good. The G guy, look, you're all really loving his interviews, but he's a decent AWPer. He can fucking frag some people if he's on CT side. Yeah, I get Aura certainly is carrying it on that one. The Mozio guy's okay. Beyond that, I'm not that, like, Attacker's there to be like a veteran and all that jazz, The obvious problem they have is I don't know how much structure they really have in the game. Like, here's the thing. I can tell, like a lot of Chinese esports pros, I can tell they put in the hours. They have some smokes and stuff. I just don't know, like you're saying, Maui, I don't think it's coincidence. They tend to just like win by for real, just like getting 2 or 3 kills in the first like 45 seconds of the round. Like that's how TYLOO wins a round. They don't win it off like, outmaneuvering you or like some sick call or like, oh my God, he was inside my head reading. No, that's not the case. Like if anything, that's where it maybe goes to shit for them as a team. And Lynn Vision is just like TYLOO light. Like it was like, I guess the Zaka guy's all right. In general, I'm not a massive fan of their squad. For me, they're more of like the complete randos. TYLOO actually looks like, though, they can maybe be like the Mongols of China, as it were. Like they at least have some potential. And so let's see. And also the other thing is, 2 of those players I referenced are quite young too. Like, yeah, Jam Young's been around a while. The others are actually like reasonably young. Like they're still on the up and coming. So I think that's actually a positive sign. Also, then you add in, a difference in the past was with the old formats we used to have. I'll actually reference the old ESL formats. If you were one of those teams like the old TYLOO, you used to go to LANs and play 3 maps and go home. You'd play like, a BO1, then you'd lose the low bracket BO3, probably 2-0, then just fuck off on a massive plane ride home and then wait 2.5 months to play another LAN. Think how many LANs we've now seen TYLOO at. Haven't we seen like 3 or 4 LANs in the last few years? Like, bro, these guys get to Europe, much like the Mongols did, and then you not only then get the reps in the tournaments, and remember, now you get a minimum of 2 BO3s. In fact, a lot of these tournaments like PGL, that's a bonus of going there, by the way, if you're those guys. You're going to get to play like 3-4 opponents probably. And then let's throw in the obvious. You'll get to scrim while you're here. In the week before you come, you're going to get a whole bunch of scrims. So I also think, look, Mongols is probably the outlier because of how good they are. Like we're saying, they're not just good. They probably are like the 5th or 6th best team in the world. TYLOO doesn't have to be that, but bro, could you even imagine a world where if like consistently TYLOO could be like 15th? Now where you've got my interest. Maybe it's still not like a team I'd hype, but now it'd be more interesting than just like, oh wow, this team's there instead of the aforementioned teams I referenced. So no, I'm with you. I see why you put it in ugly, because it's not like overwhelmingly good, but certainly it's not like what it used to be. Like, they're not just empty chairs, especially not TYLOO. I'll give you that. They're certainly not.
Well, I'm gonna spin this in one very incredibly self-serving way. You know, when Lynn Vision does well, then America still has a hope, because Call Me Sue actually played for wild card before, and I don't know if people knew this, but on Lynn Vision, Call Me Sue actually grew up in LA. So and went to school in Pennsylvania for college. So actually, it's a fun fact for anybody out there who wants to just try to hold on to absolutely.
Here's why that also ties into Dutch
for North America.
That also ties into dust's point. He's not one of the good ones. He maybe could have been on an NA team. He already speaks English. Sadly, I bet the joke is Jamil speaks zero English at all. Like, brilliant, of course. Thank you. Thanks, guys. But no, actually, unironically, if you haven't got time to do my whole plan of, like, build a whole program out, just basically pay Jam Young with an enormous salary to start learning English 24/7. In fact, tell him, you know what, you can do half the CS hours if you just do more English, because, mate, there's a lot of people. The second you can even put a broken English sentence together, there's a lot of people I'm cutting to put you on. Like, you can come straight to call tomorrow. If you want to be a star rifler, you can come to our team tomorrow, bro. Wildcard, you pick your spot. You let me know where you want to play. We'll even send you a few bottles of Amaranth shit.
Basically, North America, just keep importing more players and expand where you import them from. We can do this.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. It's our only hope.
Yes. Now, speaking of aura, boys, because I'm a professional, my ugly point is about aura. It's about, you're going to think, how's this ugly? It's ugly because the fact that Simple has played one LAN as a stand-in, where he played something like 3 matches, maybe 4, and then I think it was 3, and then he's played 1 BO1, and bro, he already has like more of an aura effect than like everyone else on the top 20. Like, what the fuck's going on? Like what Simple coming back has just shown me how many of the people in the scene don't get that this is like a media bazaar. I feel like the worst thing about COVID was we got this generation of pros who were on that shit that stopped Config getting into Astralis. You know, the famous story goes, Config was like all but in Astralis to replace Kirby, and he would have been part of like a potential golden generation. And he supposedly said the line to Zonic, the infamous line, like, I don't want to do media, I just want to frag, bro. That isn't a thing. In the modern day, fragging doesn't pay your paycheck. What you need to do is be a really good star, but then you need to also be a star outside the server. And if you can have that aura, fans get so hyped. I mean, I joked earlier, half of why people are hyped about TYLOO isn't even the upsets. It's the fact the guy's doing funny interviews. That sells. That makes people give a fuck about your story. And by the way, he's not even that great a player. If you're a player of a Simple level, right, I think Simple coming back highlights that, like, mate, even my boy Nico is fairly fucking boring, isn't he? Like, Zero never says anything unless he's pushed to. Like, the amount of these get Shiro literally will just go, I have 1 major. Duh. What next? Like, fucking hell, bro. Give me something, Give me something. Like, at least say something like, hey, everyone said I was boring or something. Give me like Apex. And I'd like to say to all the fans who said I should be caught, fuck you or something. Give me something, because Simple coming back. And the key thing here is Simple had to temper it because he knew what happened to Falcons. But because he knows from Dallas, he's sort of back. You've already seen it in this BO1. He's swagging on motherfuckers. The joke is this performance on Twitter and in interviews is as good as in the server. He's back. And it has made, for real, the interest isn't just it's Simple. It's that classic Conor McGregor thing. Everyone wants to know what the fuck's he going to say next. The second the game is, what's he going to say now? So I want to admit, this is why I put it as ugly. I feel like it does contrast, though, how many other top pros don't do this side and don't play up the angle, etc. Like, by the way, even in FaZe, it's people like fucking Carrigan still carrying that. The guy's old as fuck. It can't only be the Carrigan Apex, like, lol, I'm shit and I beat you angle. It has to also be the stars. It's best when the stars talk trash. If anyone knows right now, If you're following the NBA, every time Halliburton, who they all said overrated, caught a clutch shot, it's, delicious. Because you know he's going to make a fucking tweet or something, isn't he? He's going to do a comment. He's going to say something in a post-game interview. We're all waiting for it. So please, the aura, it's simple as just showed us that, like, compared to other games, by the way, dusT, when I go in League, they think everyone in CS is a god for all the shit they're doing on the mic. They don't know that, like, we could be eating so much better.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an issue because it's just like there's not a direct correlation between how you do media and the incentive that you get for doing it. Because like in other, facets of life, you would get some type of financial incentive for doing media because maybe you're selling merchandise or you're trying to draw people to your stream or whatever the case may be. There's like a monetization aspect to it. Whereas in CS, there really is no financial incentive to go out and do the media unless you're just trying to grow your own brand individually on social media so that you can do stuff later in life, which, I mean, simple. I mean, yeah, the whole freaking heroic bots thing, like that was just chef's kiss shit right there.
Bro, the thing where then in an interview they referenced it, he called us bots. He did a correction. He put asterisk fucking bots. Like,
dude,
this guy, he doesn't even have writers, but that's perfect. Yeah. That's too good. It's too good.
It is tough, and yeah, like you're right. Like no one else is really doing it at all. Like the only thing I can even remember lately that was really cool was when Maladoy spoke to his audience in Astana, in their language. Like that was pretty cool that he took the mic and was able to do that. But that's not going to do anything for English viewers. And you're right. Like we have so many star players who just are not willing, and it's not even you have to like talk shit or like make fun of somebody else or be combative, but just do something a little cheeky, do something a little fun. Here's what I hate: when people get a mic on after winning a trophy and they literally say they don't care that the crowd is cheering for them. Like, come on, man! Like do something. Give me anything. Like literally anything at all. It's just tough, and it's really damning because I'm not going to say who this was, but I was talking to somebody at one of these LAN events that is trying to kind of do the media side of the team, and he was brought in specifically to do that, and he's basically being told like, hey, like we want to create some content around this team. They're on their way up, and so he's come do that, and the team just doesn't want to engage with it at all. Like they don't want to even do like a podcast or an interview or just basic shit for like the social media for their team's, YouTube channel or Twitter or whatever the case may be. And it's like, guys, like look, like if you want to be able to continue to have a career in this game where you're getting paid salaries to play, like that's the type of stuff you need to do to attract eyeballs to your team, to the tournaments that you're playing in, and so on and so forth to keep this like financial system afloat. Otherwise, you're going to lose eyeballs, you're going to lose sponsorships, and then all of a sudden your salaries go away. Like if you want to ensure like the longevity of this esport, part of it is that it is an entertainment product at the end of the day. And you have to give something to the viewers out there besides just sick plays in game in order to be able to do that. And it's something that can salvage you if you're not playing very well. It can still keep you afloat and keep you in the public interest. So like, there's just so many reasons why you should be doing it. And it is crazy, as you said, Thorin, that like Simple comeback already done it immediately and everyone's snatching onto it. Meanwhile, you got these other star players who you never hear from.
And by the way, I can tell you, this is where, if you were a really big star player, you would have crazy effect. The amount of people, maybe Maui sees, I'm sure you follow some other esports. If you follow other esports, there are people I haven't seen tweet about CS at all this year. We've already tweeted about Simple. Yeah. Like, they're all like looking at, hey, what's going on? It's Simple now. Like, that draws people's eye,
Yeah. I mean, Counter-Strike.
By the way, there's even an angle. I'll tell you what, if you don't want to trash talk, I'll give you a free trash talk example. But here's how you make headlines, guys. Say you don't want to trash talk people in your game. Donk, all you have to do, mate, is say something like, well, at least I'm not playing Valorant. That's going to be on every headline in the world, mate. And no one in CS will be bought. In fact, every CS fan will love you more.
I mean, you want to even know an easier thing? And just follow the model of JL. Just beef with Thorin. It's free clout. Like, if you're doing well and you fight Thorin...
That's true.
JL last year on Twitch gained over 100,000 followers. Okay, yes, he won the major and everything like that, but Ema did not gain that many followers because Ema was just being quiet the whole time.
Yeah, true.
Ema was just too worried about not fucking up for everybody else. Whereas JL was braggadocious. He played into the personality. Like, I think it's not a coincidence that like, Tarek was able to spin his media, like winning major MVP, winning a major, into a long-term career as a big streamer. Like JL's kind of on, like, I'm not saying JL needs to like retire or anything like that, but if he wanted to, he could easily just do the same thing Tarek did. Like you can spin these moments, these peaks in your career into lifelong and generational wealth. Like it's really, you're this close to doing it. You just need to know what sort of battles you do it. I would love to just be like the agent or like a media trainer for some of these people if I took commission on them, because I would have probably just turned Ema into like the biggest star. If I just got the position that he was in, I would have just done like I would have fired off a bunch of tweets at haters. I probably would have said,
mate,
what
think
about
about this.
now?
I think you picked the perfect one because he was bad at one point, but then he became really good in the summer. If he'd have like rode the wave of being bad and flipped that narrative, bro, he would have become huge when he got that summer.
Yeah, Ema didn't really do anything with the short-lived but newfound success after winning the major. He like didn't convert it into anything, and now he's back to being one of the problems on Na'Vi. And it's like, dude, you missed your 60 seconds of fame right there. You like dramatically, like you're probably like that's really tough for him. And I feel like the simple angle itself. I mean, dude is just a highlight machine, first of all. And second of all, he takes all of this trash talk. Like, dude, he still shook hands with Youngster at the end of the freaking match. Like he's not taking it so personally.
No, he gets it. That's how you know he gets it, bro.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, ZywOo fans are doing everything in their power. Of course, we have to bring up ZywOo. ZywOo fans are doing absolutely everything in their power to try to fight, to build the case for him to being the GOAT. And yes, like, part of the GOAT case is, it is what you do in the server. It's your achievements there. It's how much you carry your team. It's how much you uplift everybody around you. But part of it is that swagger attitude that people like Michael Jordan had, that also even like think of people that weren't successful. Like Allen Iverson is still revered as like this incredible player because he just had it in terms of the shit talk, like the whole practice rant and everything like that. Like that's why I brought into the fold the whole idea of cultural impact, because it was like, ZywOo, if you it would help the sport if you just talked any shit at all. Like, please just give us anything. Like, I don't even like whatever you're doing in the server is almost irrelevant at this point. Like, dude, just say, yeah, it feels good to pass simple and I'm the GOAT now. If he just says anything like that, any bravado, anything where he sticks out his chest for once, then there's something to gravitate towards. But if it's just this like meek French farm boy who just also is gifted as being one of the greatest Counter-Strike players of all time, it just doesn't quite have the same ring as like a dude that's driving Ferraris through Ukraine and popping bottles with models. And dude, we saw the rise and the fall of Simple, and now we're witnessing the rise again. And that's why his career is so much more magnetic and attractive than ZywOo, who's just been like, I am always good, but I do not care that I am good. It's just like, it's give us something. Like, again, I can respect the play, but just what happens on the outside too helps grow everything around it.
1, hashtag he has risen. 2, then also, here's the other thing, because I know they're already going to go, no, but he has done loads of interviews. He's done interviews, guys, because they win every fucking event and he's the MVP, so you already do an interview, and spoiler, everyone feels like doing an interview when they're the fucking MVP and they just won the event. Do the interview on day 2, where, like Maui says, give us something for the event. By the way, here's a little pro lesson for all pros. It doesn't have to be straight fire Muhammad Ali memorable quotables. You just have to find an interesting angle on whatever you're going through. So I'll give you an example. You know what, this last LAN they played just before this one, Dallas, their whole thing in interviews was, we're actually not even playing our best game. Spin that to what you go is, we're not even playing our best game, but we still win all the events. That isn't even hard trash talk, but it's fire. That'll get people's interest. Or if you said something like, I'll give you an example. Say you don't want to trash talk Donk. You can go, maybe Donk is better than me. Doesn't really matter as long as my team wins all the final. That's fire. It sounds like trash talk, so people will pick it up. But if you examine it, you haven't really been rude to anyone there. That's even true. So no, I'm with you. Like, this is one of those things where the joke is you've already done the hard part. You've done the be a generational player of the fucking video game. Now all you have to do is, and think of it like training in the game, just get a few hours and reps in on the mic, and even a small part will go so far. By the way, please use Magix as the example. You're all about 1,000 times better than he is, but mate, he is fucking Donk on the mic. He's fucking killing it. I think he's dope.